This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Second down and 2. Ibrahim, first, touchdown, Gophers!
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Max Duggan. It's to Kendre Miller. Right up the gut goes Miller. He's gone. Touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Our First Western Bank and Trust down and distance from the 47 to Hunter Lipke. With a head of steam, look at the cutback. Lipke is going to go for a touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Evans to the corner. Collision. Did he get in? Yes, he did. Touchdown, Ole Miss.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, today's a busy day as always when it comes to college football, and you have to kind of be careful about what you read or what you see or what's reported, because if in fact yesterday some of the reports that were out from various, and it doesn't mean not reputable, but that the Pac-12 had come to an agreement. And a lot on the chat room said specific numbers and trading some text back and forth with those who have been in the business. That's something that it hasn't happened. Is that done and maybe somebody leaked it to a media member or somebody on Twitter that knows somebody? Sure. But here we are. It's March the 1st, the start of March Madness, which has really begun with conference tournaments. And now, again, another month waiting for what happens. Hopefully, the good news for the Pac-12 and their members, we will see. Now, today is also a big day in the NCAA. Mark Emmert is out. He, of course, announced that he would be leaving. Today, Charlie Baker is now the president of the NCAA. Let's go over a couple of quotes. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and we are until 6 o'clock, and we'll have you and your responses on the text and also chat room, the text 254-339-1122. Charlie Baker on the NIL. This is to Nicole Arbach in The Athletic. It's important to come up with some kind of framework, whether it's ours or federal framework. There needs to be some measure of respect for the position we're putting a lot of our student athletes and families in. We have to come up with some kind of transparency approach to deal, or to how we deal with this stuff. Now, that's not any breaking news that anyone else hasn't said or written or columned or even opinions before, but this comes from Charlie Baker, the new president of the NCAA. Whether any of that can happen or not, Linda Livingstone at Baylor has mentioned that too. And so there's a quote, his first quote, at least from this article today.
I just don't trust our federal government to do anything. I'm surprised at day to day that we don't have a national power outage based on how much that they like to argue. And until this gets to a point of where this is a huge deal for more than half the states, and I don't know that it is, because part of the issue is that you've got a bunch of states here that, it would never, even in the, maybe even some of the rosier times of political efficiency, that name, image, and likeness at their universities is just not going to be that big of a deal. I mean, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, places like Hawaii, Alaska, Maine, pretty much all of New England really don't have this issue. Right? They don't have, yes, their kids can make NIL, but, this is an issue in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Texas, a certain part of the United States that, while there might be more people, it's kind of maybe concentrated a little bit. So it's really hard to get that stuff through when there are a bunch of states that won't care one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that there needs to be some framework in place, but man, I feel like this is deja vu, and that this is the same thing we've heard 100 times already from those in charge who are desperately seeking the government to come fix this problem for them, and yet we know what the response is. It's total silence on the part of the government for the most part, and total inaction in terms of them having shown any sign that they're willing to go and make this move to solve all the problems of the NCAA and clear up all of the questions that are currently lingering around college athletics. What indication has been given that this help is on the way? None. And yet this is, once again, the line that's thrown out because it simply seems to be the only line that the NCAA has to play at the moment to try and solve these issues, is to get help from the outside. And I just don't know how this is really all that different outside of the fact that it is the new president and outside of the fact that he's at least using words like framework. He's not outright saying, like, please save us or we need you to solve this. It's like, at least we need to put in some framework. I'm on board with that. Explain what that would be exactly. Explain what steps you can take, and explain how you can take some of those steps on your own in the meantime, because if the whole thing is based around the NCAA getting bailed out, basically, then this is just going to go on until it basically disintegrates. I mean, what other option is there? They're going to help or they're not. And every arrow has pointed to they're not going to help you anytime soon side of things, at least based on what I've seen. And maybe you guys have seen differently. Maybe y'all have seen like a parachute floating out of the sky somewhere where there's some governor or some official that's open-minded and willing to, help save the day. But I haven't seen that. And all I've really seen is just different people saying basically the same thing, is please help us. And I just don't know that they're going to get that help. So again, If you think that could happen, okay, that's fine. But, guys, my question remains, and it's remained the entire saga. If they don't help or they're not going to help, then what is your next option? And are you at work on that? Because you have to start planning some different methods here. If this is the one and only, then this is not going to work out very well for you. You got to have some other options, and we haven't heard anything on what those might be. So maybe that's some of the framework he's talking about or something else, But yeah, the government doesn't appear to be on the horizon for help.
Well, here are some chat. Let's hold on, because Paul, some of them are in response to you, and a lot of people agree with you. Let's just assume nothing will happen. The Pac-12, until some legitimate, reputable source discussing what I mentioned earlier says a Pac-12 media deal is done, where that might come from the commissioner, it might come from the conference, it might come from somebody else who covers them, and whoever it might be. Email. Paul, you should not trust government to do anything for you. They only line their own pockets, make life more difficult for citizens to operate. From Bobby trusting the federal government, and I was part of it for 22 years, and he has the laughing emoji.
Well, I mean, that's why I don't Bobby right now. It's, but yeah, true. I mean, he knows.
Here's another one. Jeff, hold on, Paul. I'm from the government, and you're not going to work. And he had the laughing emojis as well. So there's just some of it. And they better start lobbying. They want help from the federal government. And even then, there's a lot of people lobbying for people to do other things in the federal government.
And the reason that they've come to this conclusion that they need the government, which is a rough part for anybody to get, is that, they operated under the framework of we're an organization and we've agreed to rules. And then they got to a point of where people started to say, well, yeah, we don't really like your rules. And they said, well, tough. There's nothing you can do about it. And then people realized, like, yeah, but how can you enforce it? Because you're not a federal agency. You're not a state agency. You don't have subpoena power. You don't have police. You're not really a law. It's just a rule. And, if the rule is infringing on the rights of an individual American, then it can be challenged as being against the law. So what the NCAA found was that a lot of things they were doing were not enforceable or, even really legal. They lost in court. So they need the government to pass a law because they can't enforce anything because they are just an organization. So
all right. Okay.
That's why they need the government. The problem is the government just doesn't care.
And may just pop their lips and whatever. From NCAA President Charlie Baker on the haves and have-nots as far as the future of the NCAA and college football. There's no question that the Power 5 conferences are in a different place than basically everybody else. I've talked to some of the Power 5 people about this, and I've talked to other people who aren't in the Power 5 about this. This is an important part of what we need to be looking at going forward. What is the best way to deal with that particular issue in this day and age? Again, this isn't breaking news, but it's his first day on the job. There's a written article by Nicole Arbach in The Athletic, and so I thought we'd put out a couple of quotes from him the acting now current president of the NCAA. He also mentioned that sometimes when you have what looks like the Power Five against the others, or the haves against the have-nots, and I don't like that, and some people don't like Group of Five, whatever else it is, he said that in his position, when he's gotten into any kind of, whether it's not negotiations, but talks about something that needs to be settled or move forward one way or the other, that normally once he gets involved and gets to hear from people, that maybe they're not as much against each other or not as much on different pages as some people may think.
Well, I
that
think
remains to be seen.
I think that's actually true for a lot of things in life, but I do think that we need to start taking realistic looks at things. I think that was maybe Mark Emmert's probably biggest problem, was that he had no ability to look forward. He was only a guy who was, well, this is how it is. Okay, but that only is going to get you so far. Eventually, this is how it is. Well,
this is how it is now because of this is how it was.
Yeah. The minute that, the 50% becomes 51 to 49, that's not how it is anymore. And then it tilts in another direction. So, yeah, there are a lot of things that the NCAA did wrong and probably could have prevented, because there was a time where I think people were willing and accepting to work within the framework of an organization and saying, okay, let's do this. If you guys do this, we'll give you that. But the minute that you start being unilateral and saying, we're only going to do things this way and you'll have to fight us to the death, well, that's what happened. That's what happened with NIL, and that's why it's changed now, because the NCAA, instead of changing their ways and trying to adapt with the times and realize that the business model had changed over the years and things were going against them, said, no, we're going to dig in our heels and you will fight us until we will burn to the ground. Well, when you threaten, you better be ready, because that's what happened.
So there's the quote from Charlie Baker. Also today, not good news for Jalen Carter. The All-American, perhaps the best player in college football last year, missed some games, of course, with injuries. This came out this morning. He's at the Combine, the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and he was supposed to meet and speak and answer questions with the media at about 10:30. And it took me a while to try to understand his connection to those who were killed in that car wreck, in what we were told was a one-vehicle car wreck. And it could have been, but Jalen Carter, who some might think is the best player coming out in college football, did not appear at the Combine media session. Reports of his alleged involvement in the fatal crash that killed two Georgia football program members. You remember, one of them was a player, one was a part of the football staff. Road racing, weaving in and out. Some of the allegations, he was involved in that. I had not known that, never thought about that until this morning when his name was connected to it, because the investigation brought his name up, that there's a warrant for his arrest. And his, I guess his spokesman said that they are working on that as far as what he'll do to probably turn himself in.
There are, it's 2 misdemeanor charges against him. That's the facts of the case as far as what the charges have been. And so we'll see what his involvement was in that. But according to reports that the 2 cars were racing, and that's what caused or weaving in and out of traffic and going into oncoming traffic and doing all these things. Plus, the driver of the car that was in the accident had a pretty high blood alcohol content while that was going on. So we'll see what comes out. And what's very secondary in this is what happens to Jalen Carter in the draft. Somebody's going to pick him up. I mean, they're
in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. I mean, he might drop a little bit, but his role in what happened to be a tragic accident needs to be investigated and see how, that went on.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to spin he overcame adversity to get here, when this, pops up, and it's not going to be one of the, what could have been a story of that is now going to be a much different story because of what's occurred most recently. And, he'll be lucky to get his name called, even though he'll undoubtedly get a call, but he'll be very lucky if he can just go on and play a career in the NFL unblemished without this affecting him. And it remains to be seen whether it will or not, obviously, because we're just learning about all this. But I don't know. I have noticed in the last year, maybe even longer than that. Road rage is always a thing, but it just seems like now and this is not like get off my lawn type of thing, but I just feel like people are driving way faster all the time, more often than not. Like, I mean, I was driving up to Dallas the other day, and it was insane. Like, there was a car that came flying by me in the middle lane, had to be going like 120 miles per hour, and I'm not embellishing. It's because I'm sitting there going like 75. Everybody's going 75-ish, and this Charger zoomed by, was gone in the blink of an eye, and it was weaving in and out, and it was scary stuff, quite frankly. So this kind of been on my radar just in general. There's street racing that goes on by my place all the time now over the last year that I don't remember really happening before. I just feel like I see it on the road constantly these days. In a lot of the same vehicles and maybe like the same age bracket. Maybe the 20-year-olds are just going crazy. I don't know, but it just feels like it is more of a common story these days. And so I'm not surprised to know that, some college kids are out there street racing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were probably in some pretty nice vehicles in this NIL age, especially if they were doing that. I don't know that to be sure. That part of the story is not surprising at all. But when you read some of the stuff that you mentioned, Paul, both vehicles switched between lanes, drove in the center turn lane, drove in opposite lanes of travel, overtook other motorists, drove at high rates of speed in an apparent attempt to outdistance each other, alcohol impaired, reckless driving, speed, significant contributing factors to the crash. Toxicology report indicated LaCroix, one of the two drivers, blood alcohol was 0.197. Like, this is just stupidity. And bad decision making, and unfortunately, there was there was an outcome that was undesirable for everybody involved because of some of the decisions that were made as to how that occurred. That's what's being figured out right now, and whose role was what and all of that. It's just a sad story overall, and to think that it was already sad enough, but now here's a guy that. I don't know. Did he throw his dreams away? Probably not. I can't really tell based on this story, but it's shocking that this is coming out a few days after the fact, and that somebody so high profile is involved. So we'll see what happens. But obviously most thoughts and positive energy go to the families who were so deeply affected by this. In the first place, lost their lives.
Yeah, and it took me a while to connect. Wait a minute, what does Jalen Carter have to do with? I thought it was a one-vehicle accident.
They were racing,
and then when you look at the details.
Fortunately for Jalen Carter, yes, it was. His vehicle was fine. Last night, guys, when I left, we had an interview which people will see on Sick'em 365 with Keytron Jackson here soon. We had the interview. I went home. I stopped to get some food, and I was on Valley Mills Drive. And for those of you who are from Waco, Valley Mills Drive. And there were two trucks that were work trucks, like guys with ladders and stuff in the back that were street racing behind me on a street that I will tell you, if you're not from here, is traffic light, traffic light, traffic light, traffic light, traffic light.
And this, like a snake.
It's not great. Yep. And I immediately bailed off as soon as they were around me. I was like, nope, getting off. I'll take the longer way home. But I couldn't believe it. And then when you see it, like you said, you've seen it, it makes no sense to me why this has all of a sudden gotten popular. But,
I just feel like I've noticed an uptick in it. And maybe it's just over by my place where it's happening on a more regular basis. But I'm not the only one that's sensed that. And I don't know if it's just, again, an age thing or if it's Vin Diesel's fault or what. But, that part of it's not surprising. But that development of Jalen Carter being involved to some extent is obviously some pretty shocking news to learn today. And the fact that there was a third vehicle in the vicinity that was also driven by another Georgia player.
Yep.
There was a lot of involvement overall. And two people died as a result. And it's just a very sad story to begin with. So let the legal system play out. But, that was shocking to learn and see his name pop up in that regard.
I live on the top of a hill where, Paul, you have to drive by. Craig's been there, of course, for a while, and now he's on the other side of town. But there's a huge hill. And every night, almost every night, you can hear them going up and down. And then one day, I'll never forget, and it was pretty much very surreal, coming out of my entrance or exit to get on the lakeshore to take a left down the hill, there were police officers, EMS, and ambulance, and somebody had tried to come out of the side road. A motorcycle was going too fast, slammed right into him, and died instantly. Just like, boom, gone. And so it's happening, but you hear it all the time. So there's that story. And Jalen Carter, who could have been the number one overall pick, whether it's Chicago or whoever they traded to, if it's not one of the quarterbacks, whoever, is now, we'll see how that works out. And then I saw some of the responses. My God, Philadelphia's back there just like doing this. Let Jalen Carter, drop to us because of everyone looking at that rather than the story itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to play out, and, there's a bunch of people involved that you didn't know at first from this story first broke. You learned about the 2 people that were killed, and you learned maybe a name or 2 otherwise that was involved, but I mean, there's like 3 other players that have been named in this thing since then, with him being the headliner, and so it continues to unwrap and unravel what actually happened on that night. But he did release a statement saying, we got the combine going on this week, so he's obviously, somebody that everybody's talking about, and let the world know through his statement that he's going to be returning to Athens to answer questions and to do what he needs to do as part of the investigation. But a very interesting story that is not anywhere close to over, it appears. So, that's one that we'll keep track of.
Chris, we'll get to your super chat. Not right now, but we will. We'll have college basketball. Guys, what a $5 super chat. Thank you. Who would you top team from each of the major conferences to win the national championship? In basketball, there's the mid-majors, but again, Gonzaga in that conference might as well be a Power 5, even though the depth may not be there. Boise State last night with a great win against San Diego State that helps them probably get in the tournament. We will get into that and we'll say the 6, the 5 Power 5 conferences in football, and also the Big East when it comes to basketball, and perhaps a few others. Chris, thank you very much. Good question. We'll get to that in a little bit. Someone said, I thought it was just a 1-card deal. Was it this possibly Georgia trying to protect their players? I don't know the details. I don't think so, because Kirby Smart released a statement, and you could tell where he was with that statement.
I just think that the details are coming out now as they get into the investigation. I think Georgia was trying to protect anything. I mean, here's the thing. Jalen Carter's gone. I mean, like, what good would it do them now to protect him if he was directly involved and responsible for it? So, no, I don't think that that has anything to do with it. I think just the details are coming out. Georgia, and if they were covering anything up or protecting something, I'll eat my words on this, but from pretty much the minute this happened, they've been pretty forthright about it was a university car, it was university this, and there's nothing to really hide here other than you had some kids behaving responsibly and ended in tragedy. So covering anything up here is not to their benefit, because, again, the super stud player that they're protecting isn't coming back next year. He's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to put anything past any college at this point as far as their image and protecting, the shield, so to speak. But I don't have enough to think that Georgia's being nefarious about this. Like, I haven't gotten that impression outside of just, saying what they should say but not saying more than they should say. Like, they didn't need to be the ones that came out and were like, and Jalen Carter was driving this, and, this third vehicle was in the vicinity with another player, one of our linebackers, and he was around, and I don't think that was their job to release all of that information. So they're they're certainly getting the proper advice they feel from their lawyers and reacting accordingly. But yeah, I don't know really what the benefit would be. I guess, if you want my mind to go to a dark place on, like I said, if it was covering up something else, but like that just becomes so speculative and not at all within what we do know about this story. So that's not healthy to start to try to get into that area of things without more information that would lead you to believe that could be the case.
Why today? Why is it just the timing of the case?
Well,
because
yeah.
And also the investigators might have also told the NFL, hey, you may want to watch here. They know what's going on.
Well, I mean, there's probably, I'm assuming, and this is straight assuming, there's traffic cam footage of this and then witnesses. And then when you get all down to it, they look at the traffic cam footage. And remember, we found out last week that Jalen Carter was not going to work out at the combine. That could have been one of those, instead of, I'm not going to work out, I'm going to save it for pro day, just laying the groundwork of, he'll be up there for a day and then he's got to go back and deal with this because this was coming down the line because they discovered what the overall cause was, because there is a shot here that after this happened, Jalen Carter just kept driving.
All right. Schedules have been released. Everyone's still waiting. We're waiting to see what happens, but schedules are out. But the MAC today, Maction, they put out, I don't expect you to see all these logos, but one of the interesting parts about this, their schedule was released this morning. Look under the M, 2 slots down from the Miami of Ohio. They're playing the University of Miami. Now, they may have played them 73 times in the past. I don't know that, but that's interesting. I think whoever wins that game, the other team has to give away their name no longer can be used.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I would. I mean, normally I would say that, but I'm
Miami,
curious
Ohio
to see.
doesn't want to lose their name, right?
No, here's the thing.
Who
Miami Hurricanes don't want to. Remember, this is a team that lost to Middle Tennessee State last year, badly to Middle Tennessee State, and so yeah, that's going to be maybe an interesting one early on to see where Miami is. Again, probably, streaming upstream with the quarterback as they were just a year ago.
So there's that. The MAC schedule is out. Also, College Football Playoff Selection Committee have added members, Athletic Director Chris Alt, longtime head coach and athletics director at the University of Nevada, Jennifer Cohen, the Athletic Department AD Athletics Director at the University of Washington, and David Saylor, Athletics Director at Miami of Ohio. Speaking of them, they have been added to the College Football Playoff Committee, Selection Committee. Tom Berman, Rick George of Colorado, John Urschel have all had their terms expire.
Yeah, I think if Miami, Florida wasn't so well known as the U, even their logo being the U, then maybe the battle for Miami's name would be a little more supercharged. But they're the U. They already got their niche, and in Miami of Ohio,
they could be the M.
They could be the M. Their logo's the M. I mean, they do have the Miami M logo, and Miami, Florida's got the U logo. So I guess there is that separation. But yeah, that'll be a nice little battle of Miami's early on. And yeah, I'm curious to see kind of where Cristobal's squad is, early on in the year. But as far as the committee goes, that's interesting to hear the new names. Not much more of a reaction to it than that. The committee's kind of nameless, faceless to me at this point. Even though there's always a rotation of people, and we get the one face of it every couple of years, like the Jeff Long and Kirby Hocutt.
Yeah, I think Corrigan stays as the spokesperson.
Okay,
yeah.
That's kind of who I'm mainly focusing on when it comes to the committee. But that's really more than a reaction to those people. It's from what we've been able to tell, a pretty cool opportunity for those that have been involved that we've talked to, as far as just a career thing and a fun thing to be able to do. Everybody who's been a part of the committee that we've spoken with is raved about the little trips to Dallas and staying at the we stay there for the Cotton Bowl, the Gaylord.
The Gaylord, yeah.
The Gaylord, and having a grand old time doing that whole deal. So yeah, good for those folks and that experience.
By the way, they've played 3 times in their history, Miami. 3 times. The last time they played was in 1987. Okay. So it's been a while.
If Miami,
back in the middle of their run,
Miami, Ohio wins, they get to call themselves for a year
the U,
the cool Miami.
Okay,
real Miami,
the real Miami.
Yeah,
one you'd want to go to.
They've played 3 times overall. Back in 1945, they played. Just a little note.
Miami
and
U.
A nugget. Yeah, Miami
U. Yeah.
All right, a college basketball note. We knew this. We mentioned this yesterday. Scott Drew joins us today at 5. Fran Fraschilla, Dale Bonner. How about this in the last couple of games? We brought this up on Monday, and then again even yesterday after the win against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. He played 11 minutes total in the previous 6 games, with 3 of those games did not play. The last 2 games, Dale Bonner, Keontae George has gone down. Langston Love gets poked in the eye. He has played 52 minutes, scored 28 points, played obviously very good defense, steals, etc. And this is, I think, we'll ask Scott about this. Be ready for your moment. Like Mike Oluwajiana, he hasn't played a lot. When it's his time, he may need to be ready. You never know. Flo gets foul trouble. You hope nothing happens, but that's a testament of a guy, Dale Bonner, not pouting. Sure, he probably wants to play, but that's it. From 11 minutes over 6 games, 3 did not play, to 52 minutes in 2 games, and he helped them win big time both of those games.
If you look at what they did against Texas, a little bit less against Oklahoma State, but Josh Ojenwuna played probably 4 or 5 minutes against Texas. Dale Bonner played a lot, and it was right after Keontae George went out, they kind of had to maybe it was one of those things you kind of throw some things at the wall and see what sticks, because your plan is to have the rotation that circulates around your three scorers and George, Cryer, and Flagler. And if George is not going to be there, then you have to have a new thing. And also, I think Ojeanwuna got in there a little bit because they needed somebody else to just knock around Disu for a minute, because he was killing them early on before they got him in foul trouble. So maybe had to put some of the bigs in there. But, yeah, you got to be ready for your time. And early in the year, most everybody got a lot of minutes because they were dealing with different things. So while Caleb Lohner and Josh Ojeanwuna's and Dale Bonner's minutes have gone down, they were ready for when they came back up, especially Bonner, who's been fantastic.
Depth is one heck of a thing to have. I mean, and they certainly have it. Not only do they have the stars, when you want to go the star route and see who could possibly, be that ultra talent that puts you over the top, they've got those types of guys. They've got a very sick starting lineup that can compete with just about anybody in the country. But if you want to get into the bench now, they've proven they can do that too. So they are, a very well-versed team all around. They're not a perfect team by any means. They definitely have their struggles at times, whether it's shooting or down low or what have you, but they have a great offense. They got a lot of playmakers, and just when you think that maybe an injury is going to derail them a little bit, here comes Dale Bonner to go like, nuh-uh, we're not going to have any major drop-off. I'm here. Now, obviously, injuries have become even more of a concern here as of late, and in their guards. So got to get those guys healthy and try to get back to 100% as quickly as possible, to state the obvious. But I think Dale Bonner's a great story about, just what that tweet said about staying ready. If you're a high school coach or a youth coach or even another college coach, I mean, if you want to just get the point across, for the 1,000th time to your guys on the bench or girls on the bench who maybe are having a hard time struggling, staying in there and staying focused because they're not getting playing time, like just point to Dale Bonner and say, see? And there's hundreds of other examples, I'm sure, that you could point to. But this year in particular, this last couple of weeks, he has absolutely been the case study, the best example of, hey, you're down in the dumps a few weeks ago, not playing as much as you want, probably debating a lot of things in your head, probably hearing things from the outside, but look what can happen if you just keep your head down, trust the process, so to speak, and stay ready. You're going to have your opportunity, and you're going to have a chance to take advantage of that opportunity. And to Dale Bonner's credit, he was ready and he took advantage of it, but he's going to need to do it some more along the way.
Baylor plays their last game at home early. It's 11 a.m. against Iowa State, who hammered them to start the conference schedule back earlier in the year. So tonight in the Big 12, Texas, a game and a half right now back of Kansas, who won last night against West Virginia. They can get to within a game with them hosting UT Kansas on Saturday at the Moody in Austin. TCU is hosting UT tonight. And then Oklahoma plays at Kansas State. Jerome Tang and company have gotten themselves healthy again. I'm talking about win-loss record healthy, as they've made a nice run and won, I believe it's now, 3 in a row.
If Texas loses to TCU tonight, you think those ticket prices will go down?
All right, I got to bring this up, Craig. I text Paul. This is last night. As he's watching Kansas and texted me, and he goes, man, I really hope Bob Huggins gets a big win.
It's not.
So I said, why don't you go to that game Saturday? It's in Austin. And he gave me a lot of different. One, he doesn't think someone could handle being in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And number two, the price of the tickets are about $300 a piece.
For the bad ones.
For the bad tickets. So if Kansas or if Texas will lose, no, they're going to pack that. It's Kansas.
Yeah.
They're going to pack it.
If it's not for the Big 12 regular season title, then I wonder if it would go down a little bit. But, yeah,
no, because Kansas fans will be there either way.
Because you said that, and I said, you know what, let me look. Let me see what the deal is. And, before I have to start calling in favors down there. But I looked, and it was $313. There are some
Craig,
tickets.
You think he should get 2 tickets to go down there?
$800.
I think that would be the right thing to do.
Well, I asked the decision maker, and she was
what?
No, I'm not just going to tell her like we're going. Like, she's the decision maker. She's the CEO. Why
couldn't you have just surprised her? You're going down there to shop. Oh, by the way, that Texas is playing Kansas today. Not as if she didn't know that.
Here's the deal.
The decision maker.
Yeah, I'm not. She's not someone who. She would do an impromptu thing if there was a plane involved and ended on like a beach or something. But she is such a planner to where and I'm sure people who are married know this. I'm not married yet, but I will be shortly in a few months. But we'll be having a conversation, and she'll be like, hey, I was thinking, what are we going to do for dinner on Wednesday? And I'll be like, what's today? And she's like, Thursday. I'm like, well, that's
the week before.
I'm like, 6 days from now. And I'll just say something like chicken. Just because, I don't know.
With chicken,
Produce?
Yeah.
Protein?
I mean, like chicken, and then maybe like some sort of vegetable.
Yeah. All right. So when we come back, I want to get into, we have Rob Dauster at 3:45 from the field of 68 on college basketball. A little bit later on, I want to put some things in perspective on Kansas and their ultimate of blue bloods, and really some things that might catch your attention and also might bring attention to what Baylor, not trying to be Kansas, and right now they are, but overall, they'll never be able to do that overall unless it's another 50 years of success. But I really kind of caught my attention when they were playing that game with West Virginia about success at the highest of levels. Craig?
Yeah, we got that super chat that we need to roll around
you.
back
All right.
to. We kind of just blew.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to take a break,
yeah.
so I just want to make sure we don't not get back to that at some point. And also,
we do need to make up for a break.
In the last few minutes, while we've been talking, there's also, I don't know if you saw as a follow-up to Charlie Baker's comments, but you know that a senator has already responded to said comments and said that basically they're hoping that the NCAA is more open-minded about the way they've done things previously. And it doesn't sound, unsurprisingly, like the road forward is some saving parachute, saving grace from the federal government. In fact, it sounds like from Senator Murphy, I believe, that it's going to be the NCAA that's going to have to change, not the other way around, which is what we've been saying this entire time, and why my very first thing I started saying today was, basically sounds good, but we've heard this before, and if it's not changing, what are your options B and C? And I think it's becoming very clear that options B and C are going to be needed. So you can hope and pray for A all you want, but I don't think that's coming, especially when you've already had such a quick response to your initial comments. And that's from somebody in the government you're hoping is going to save you, saying basically, no, you're the one that needs to get your act together.
Yep.
So
all right, good. That's good to know, and that's not a surprise. Rob Dauster will join us. What do you want to do, the Kansas now, or do you want to break, come back with Kansas?
We got a break, yeah.
All right, let's take a break, Gary. We got to make one up, and then Rob Dauster is going to join us, who's given us time here in about 15 minutes, a little bit less than that. A note about putting Kansas and their blue blood and their success in perspective. And that's next on 365 Sports. Ideal MRI spoke with Rob Maxey yesterday. I've had this lower back issue now for a couple of weeks, really since the Super Bowl and the trip to Phoenix, and have had an MRI. And so then I called him and I said, I need the one I got from you back last spring. And so he put it up in the portal. The doctor can look at it and see if anything has changed, and nothing has. It's just part of being, having some aches and pains and a nerve that flares up, or even some sort of impingement. So we're dealing with it. But Dr. Maxey immediately responded. That's who he is. That's who they are. Ideal MRI, an MRI machine, state-of-the-art technology. It's amazing. In the Central Texas marketplace, it's in Waco, and it's worth the drive wherever you are, because it's $497 to get evidence of what is bothering you, what hurts you, what is not allowing you to function. Never more than that. It's sometimes less at idealmri.com.
During Ram Truck Month, shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels. Ram trucks have all the quality for work or play, with impressive towing capabilities, heavy-duty payload capacity, smooth ride, and a luxury feel interior design. If you're looking for a truck that can do it all, come see the possibilities of a Ram truck. And if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams. Shop Allen Samuels, DCJ.com, or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Rob Dauster, the field of 68, college basketball, and I mean there's something they're talking about. It could be a big win, a big loss. And of course this is their feeding frenzy, which actually happens the day the college basketball starts. And even before that, Rob joins us, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak on 365 Sports. So, Rob, I was going to put this out there. You know, Kansas is like the ultimate blue blood. I know Kentucky is in that conversation, or North Carolina. And they were playing last night against West Virginia, and I realized they won a national title last year. It was 14 years prior to that, 20 years before that one, 36 years before that one. It's hard, right? It's hard to be a blue blood, even though Kansas has thought of that.
Yeah, you know, the thing about winning a national title is that you got to win 6 games in March against some of the best competition. You're never determining necessarily who the best team is. I've always said this. The NCAA tournament is the worst way to determine the best team in a sport and the best way to determine a champion, because anybody could win it. We've seen that over the years. Like UConn had no reason to be able to win the last 12 NCAA tournaments, and they did. Right? That's the fun part. That's what makes the sport so much fun and so entertaining. But I think, look, with this Kansas team this year, I really do think that they have as good of a chance as anybody to win a title and to repeat for the first time since Florida in 2007. You know, I think Bill Self, he's not getting enough credit this year for the job that he's done with what they lost last season, with what they brought back. He figured out a way to make KJ Adams be one of the better centers at 6'6" in the Big 12, the best conference in college basketball. You know, he's got DeJuan Harris playing above his head. It's so much fun to watch his team develop and grow throughout it. Well, it is for us on the outside. I can't imagine that it is for people that have to go against them, night in and night out in that conference. But he is so good at what he does. It makes me wish I was that good at my job.
Rob, it is kind of fascinating. He's also done this without any kind of real sixth man or presence on the bench when it comes to if someone in the starting five is cold. For Kansas, it's just they're going to be cold because you're not really going to get many points in a spot off the bench just to get a guy out of a funk. Yeah,
you basically got to get it with your five, right? You're kind of – their benches, we're going to steal minutes here and we're going to steal minutes there. We're going to try to make sure that these guys have their legs at the end of the game. But you're not bringing someone in to be like an impact sub. It's just kind of what it is this year for Kansas. And frankly, I think we see that with a lot of teams across the country, right? There's a lot of really good teams that basically have 5 guys. And to me, that has been one of the most impactful things about the portal is it's very difficult to put together a roster where you have like 9 or 10 guys that are all good enough to contribute at the level that you expect with teams like this. Because if you're going to be the 8th guy on a team, but you're good enough to be a starter for maybe a team that's a little bit lower in the pecking order, you're probably going to leave and go be eligible right away and go play 35 minutes somewhere, right? So I think, to me, that's been one of the bigger, most surprising parts about the way that this has kind of developed and the way that the transfer portal has kind of progressed college basketball in 2023.
Rob, tonight a potentially huge game, a very interesting game with Texas and TCU. And, of course, if Texas can get the win, that makes that game on Saturday that much more massive between the Longhorns and the Jayhawks. Your thoughts on how Rodney Terry navigated the Chris Beard situation and has gotten Texas here close to the finish line where they are and have a shot at a Big 12 regular season championship?
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate how difficult it is to do what Rodney Terry has done this year. You're coming in, you're taking over a program that you didn't necessarily build. Now, he was involved in the recruitment and involved in adding those guys. But those guys came into that program to play for Chris Beard. They came into that program because they believed in the vision that Chris Beard sold them. And out of nowhere, like overnight, all of a sudden that's gone. And Chris Beard is no longer the guy running the show there. And to be able to step in and you know, not lose a step, right? This is they were a top 10 team when Chris got suspended. And they're a top 10 team right now. It's been unbelievable what he's done, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I hope they give him a shot at the job. You know, I don't know if you necessarily want to invest. I don't think he's proven himself to the point that you would invest, I don't know, like the same salary that you would have paid Chris Beard, because I think Chris Beard had a little bit of a better track record. But I hope Rodney Terry gets it, and I would love to see him prove everybody, all the doubters, including myself, wrong. You know, I think he's earned that opportunity. If you finish second in a league as good as this Big 12 is, you deserve to have at least a shot. You know, give him something.
Rob, do you feel like Chris Beard will be a head coach by the end of the season or by the start of next season?
Man, it kind of feels like it's leaning that direction, right? It's going to require a school that can overlook some of the things that have gone on with him and some of the accusations that, you know, frankly, are still going to be hanging over his head. But in college basketball in 2023, I would not be surprised to see him ending up having a job somewhere. My biggest thing is, like, is he going to get another high major job? Like, is Ole Miss going to come call him? That's one of the places that has kind of seemed like a place that has been connected with him. Or is it something like, you know, he's got to start at like a UT Arlington or something at more at that level? And not to say that, like, things are going to change at UT Arlington. I'm just throwing something out. Like more of a mid-major, low-major kind of a program. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with him. I do think that it was very beneficial that the charges were eventually dropped, because now there's no more legal proceedings. You're just going to have to deal with the pushback that you get from hiring them, more or less. And you know, if I'm the PR firm advising whoever's going to hire them, I would not be surprised, like in the middle of the national title game, we get this release and this news that Chris Beard has been hired. Try to bury it as much as possible. Like that just seems to be the way these things go. I don't know if I love it, but that's just it seems like that's where we're trending.
Rob, what do you think about what Baylor has done this year? They've been a little bit up and down. They've had 2 losing streaks essentially in this season, a 3-game and a 2-game skid. But is this a team that fully healthy can make a run, or are they too weak on defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to depend on how consistent they are on that end of the floor. And I think getting Machota back is just – it's so important, because he's the guy that, he doesn't quite have the same burst, and he's probably not going to be blocking shots at the same level. And he's definitely not the same guy that's going to be soaring over 17 defenders and throwing down lobs, right? But it's the presence, it's the leadership, it's the voice at the back. Like, watch him when they play. He's the guy that's always yelling at everybody, that's always talking, that's always barking out orders. It's always saying, hey, switch here, screen here, do that, rotate, you got to get over there, right? Like, it's just his presence on the court helps. And to be frank, like, you need guys that can just get in the way. There's 2 ways that you can be a rim protector, right? One of them is to block shots. The other one is to be the guy that takes 100 charges and just gets in the way when people are driving to the basket. And you can do that if you're not really athletic. There's lots of guys that have made Brad Davidson had a 27-year college basketball career made out of nothing but taking charges. So there's ways that you can kind of find a way to get it done. But look, when it comes to JTT, that's one of the best stories in college basketball because what that dude overcame. I don't know how much the public really knows about how bad that injury was, but I'm so happy for him. He's a great ambassador for the sport. He's a great human being, and it's just nice to see him, on the court smiling again, banging threes. How about that?
Yeah,
JTT, 3-point shooter.
Well, hello, Jonathan, and he hits a three really quickly. Hits a couple of them in that game. One other thing about him, he's playing well. It's not just he's coming back and it's a great story. He actually is impacting the team. His leadership has always been unquestioned, but also he's actually not at that level where he was, but he's playing well to help them. And they needed that inside presence.
Yep, absolutely they did. That was the key. And I think the other thing, he's not going to be the vertical spacer, right? He's not going to be the guy catching lobs, but it's just as effective if you can set a screen and pop. Like, the defense still has to get engaged. You still create that space. Maybe the way that they do it is a little bit different, but he's still able to be a picking, a ball screen threat, and that's what you need. When you got Adam Flagler and L.J. Cryer and Keontae George and even, Dale Bonner and Langston Love, when you have those guards, you just need a guy that you can set a screen and have defenses have to pay attention to. And that's what Jonathan Machota is. And it's great to see him play. And I'll tell you what, he's going to get a lot of open threes with those three guards coming off a ball screen because every defense is going to have to pay attention to it.
All right, we had a question about this. And this, there's of the major conferences in college basketball, we had a question on our chat. Name the team that you would pick that would represent them if they were to get to the Final Four. In the Big Ten, who would that be in your opinion?
Man, I would have said Indiana until last night. I just think the combination of Trace Jackson Davis's presence and how good their guards can be when they're right. Now, they have these games that they throw up that are just complete stinkers that kind of surprise you with the effort level. But I still think at their peak, Indiana is the best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and Iowa hammered them last night. I saw that as well. All right. Yeah, smoked them. Alabama is going about their business. It's been a rough run, as you can imagine, because of the story involving the former player in Miles and then Brandon Miller and his at least part of that story. They have A&M, I think, on Saturday to close out the regular season. Is it A&M Alabama and or somebody else in the SEC?
Yeah, I think it's Alabama. When Alabama is right, they are, to me, the most dangerous team in college basketball. The big question I have is, Brandon Miller is, 20 years old? He hasn't spoken to the media yet since all of this stuff happened, and now it's going to be the focal point of every single press conference you do at the SEC tournament and at the NCAA tournament. When it comes to the NCAA tournament, when you go to these games, they put you up they put you up there, they put you at the table, they put the microphone in front of you, they got 20 cameras on you, and it's going to be a question that gets asked of him, of Nate Oates, of every single player on that team. So how they can kind of compartmentalize that, it's hard. And I'll be honest, man, it feels weird. It's so uncomfortable saying, they're going to have to distract themselves from the fact that, there was this death of a 23-year-old woman that involved players on this. It's such an uncomfortable thing to be, a situation to be in. And if we're being frank, I think that the way that Alabama handled it, from a punishment perspective, I don't have a real issue with, but from a PR perspective, I think they kind of hung out Brandon Miller and to a point Nate Oates just kind of hung him out to dry. It's not the way that I would handle it if I was in that situation.
I asked Seth Greenberg of ESPN Game Day, College Game Day, that same question yesterday, and he had almost the exact answer, Rob, as you did. It's almost like uncomfortable to discuss it because of of what happened with the story. Okay, the Big 12, Kansas has separated themselves. UT still has a chance to get a piece of it. Obviously, Baylor, Kansas State, UT. Is it Kansas right now that's kind of separated themselves as the pick in the Big 10 or Big 12?
Yeah, I think so, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to hitch my wagon to Bill Self and see what happens, right? But I will say this about Baylor. At the end of the day, when you get into March to be able to make a run, you need to have great guard play. Not good guard play. You need to have great guard play. And there's no team in college basketball that has better guard play than Baylor. And, oh, by the way, they happen to have a dude on the sideline that all of 24 months ago was cutting down the nets, winning a national title himself. So I think Kansas is probably the team that I would pick just because I think they're a little bit better and a little bit more well-rounded. Well, Baylor is going to be dangerous. Like if you're a number 1 seed, right, and you see Baylor as the 2 seed in your region, I don't think that you're sitting there being like, all right, we do a team that can't really guard anybody. You're sitting there saying, what are we going to do against Adam Flagler and LJ Cryer and Keontae George?
Pac-12 has UCLA and Arizona.
Give me UCLA. I think that they are I think they're a top 4 team in America right now. I think they're going to end up jumping over Purdue for a 1 seed when things are all said and done. They got a veteran point guard. They got a stud in Jaime Jaquez. Their center, I don't know if you've seen this kid play yet, Adem Bona, but he looks like a young Amari Stoudemire with how athletic and how explosive he is. He had a game-winning block the other day where he threw a layup almost back to half court. You know, he's an absolute freak and an anchor and exactly the kind of guy that you would expect to be a starting center for a Nick Cronin team. They're a fun team to watch. They're really good.
Among these teams that are, and again, college basketball, Power 5 or whatever you want to call them, mid-majors, but Houston, Marquette, or Gonzaga?
ACC.
Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My God, I went right over one of the finalists, of course, with North Carolina. Your thoughts about the ACC? Sorry about that.
We don't need to have a conversation about the ACC if we're talking about Final Fours this year.
Easy enough.
Yeah. Miami to me is like it's kind of the B+ version of Baylor. Isaiah Wong is a stud. They got Nigel Pack, the kid from Kansas State. They got a dude named Jordan Miller who might be the most underrated player in the conference. And Jim Larinaga, he's another guy that just finds a way to get it done in March. They also don't guard anybody, so that's a little bit of a problem. But I was much more in on them before they blew a 25-point lead, the biggest blown lead in the history of the ACC. On Saturday to Florida State of all teams.
You know it.
Yep. You got a Seminole. You got
Noles.
So among these schools, Houston will be a part of the Big 12. Marquette, Gonzaga. If you had to put them in order of maybe getting or could get to a Final Four, how would you put them in order?
I'm going to put Houston at number 1. Like they're so good. They're so tough. They know what they're going to do. They know their role. I don't know if they quite have the ceiling of some of these other really good teams around college basketball, but they're just so good at what they do that you have to be great on your day to be able to beat them. And there's not very many teams in college basketball that can do that. I would put Marquette second. I love the way they can kind of space the floor, and I do think neither of them or Gonzaga are going to be great metrically when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. But Marquette at least has the ability to switch everything and force turnovers. So they can go on runs, right? They can go on possessions where they force 3 straight turnovers and get layups out of it. And that ability to turn defense into offense, while they're not going to be great defensively, I do think that that's something that's going to matter when you get to March, right? There's going to be times when a team's got you scouted, they got you figured out, and you got to find a way to get buckets without being able to run it your offense and run your stuff. And their ability to force turnovers and get layups out of it is something that I think will help them.
Rob, when it comes to Houston, would their biggest thing that's would catch them up is a game where they score 56 points and run up against a team that has just a fill it up scorer that can make a key shot at the end of a game and kind of undo what would probably be a great defensive game otherwise?
I think to be able to beat Houston, you got to match them like size for size, pound for pound, athlete for athlete. So I think that some of these teams out there, like maybe like in Arizona, I think would give them a lot of trouble because you got just as many big, physical, athletic dudes on Arizona as you do on Houston. I think teams like that, like a Texas, right? You got a lot of Texas got a bunch of guys that are like 23 and 24 years old, right? I think that's the kind of team that could end up giving Houston some trouble. I think that if you got to match them strength for strength, because if you can't keep them off the offensive glass, if you can't run your offense against them, they're going to be able to force turnovers against you. Like they're so good at doing what they do. The way that one coach phrased it to me is they control the controllables, right? You're always going to get 110% effort, right? You never question that. You're always going to get a team that gets up in you and really, really, really guards you. And you're always going to get a team that pounds the glass. Like, I pound the 12-ounce Bud Light once it hits 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. So they control the controllables, and you've got to be able to beat them at their games to be able to beat them, because I don't think you can do it otherwise.
All right, Rob, man, we appreciate it. What you guys do, we've appreciated all you. Okay, your daughter's a gymnast, correct?
Yeah, she is. She's 4 years old. She's trying to be a gymnast.
Well, she's Nadia Coleman-Each or Mary Lou Retton, whoever it might be. Simone Biles, is that right? That is awesome.
Yeah. Wow, there you go.
That is a unique. It's a great sport. Obviously, the Olympics, people love that, along with figure skating. What was your reaction when she wanted to get into gymnastics?
I was like, good. Let's burn off some of this energy. Let's find a way to get you tired so you're going to sleep at night.
Yeah. I love it. All right,
I would look, if you go pick her up and she like runs to see you, be like, no, go back. Do a couple more
She
tumbles.
does a somersault over the car. Yeah.
We're staying. We're going for class number 2. Here we go.
Yeah. Here we go. Hey, Rob, thank you as always. Thanks for your time. They do a great job. It is a fantastic basketball podcast with Terrence, also Jeff Goodman, and also, of course, Rob Dauster with us on 365 Sports. The 4 o'clock hour is coming up next. Got a note. He mentioned Mick Cronin and UCLA. A note about Cronin and Scott Drew. That will be in the next hour. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. If you are in the market for a new vehicle, if you are in the market for just getting some vehicle repairs, if you're in the market for vehicle upkeep, if you're looking to buy new, if you're looking to buy pre-owned, whatever the case may be, Richard Carr is there for you. And they're there for you all throughout the week. You can give them a call. You can go to the website. You can drop by the dealership to find or get what you are looking for. And right now, if you are looking for a new vehicle, they've got a Texas-sized selection, over 150 vehicles on the lot ready to drive home today. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now. Qualified buyers can save thousands on new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500. They get special financing on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. If you're looking more up the SUV route, they've got luxury SUVs without luxury pricing. The 2023 Buick Envisions have smooth and quiet rides. You can get lease payments, $5,000 down cash, or trade at $269 per month. Save thousands on a purchase. I know that numbers and offers can get a little jumbled in your head when you're just listening to them. So go over to the website, richardcarr.com, if you need more information, want to hear a little bit more about the exact figures and exact deals going on right now. But basically, wherever you look, they've got prices slashed, or they're in the mood to have conversations about how they can best and as quickly and as fun as possible get you into a new vehicle. So luxury SUVs, you've got the lease payments, the down cash, $269 per month, and get all that figured out when you go over there. That's if you're looking to buy a new vehicle. But if you're looking to buy a quality pre-owned car, there's deals there as well. Lots of cars and trucks in stock under $20,000. They're affordable. They're thoroughly inspected. They're ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Quality pre-owned vehicles ready to drive today. And again, maybe you're not even in the market for a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle. You're not in the market for a vehicle at all. You just want to get your vehicle fixed up. You want to drive your car, truck, or SUV a little while longer. Their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. So go to richardcarr.com to see their service specials, see all of their deals, and set an appointment to either talk to one of the financiers or one of the dealers over there to take a look at a car, or the workshop to get your car or truck or SUV worked on. For 23 years in Central Texas, they've built a reputation as the people you can count on for all of your automotive needs. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
The future's bright. The time is now. Destiny is calling. Can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
407-365 Sports, we appreciate you. Last night, by the way, on the replay, which I don't do this every night because I can't, but I look at kind of how things are trending as far as the segments from Paul's last segment, the top 5, to anything we've discussed, and a lot of it, realignment. And yesterday blew me away that someone called us all 3 Texas homers. Not the state of Texas.
Man, we have made it.
Wow. Holy
We have made it, man.
I went back and forth with him. I was like, you're not, I didn't say uneducated in the situation, but you really, and then a couple others responded by saying, no, they're not. We do have some that go, man, you guys do have a lot of segments because they're in the mix of so many things that matter, even when it's been, whether football's been down or whatever, because of a lot of it is about realignment, the future, and also their sports department, athletic department has been damn good for 2 or 3 years with winning that Learfield Cup.
Yeah, that would be like a guy walking into Bernie Sanders' office and going, "You, sir, are a Reaganite. You right-wing psycho."
I've been called a lot of things, but not a Texas homer ever in my entire life.
And then when I responded the way I did, I said, "You really don't much watch this." And he goes, "Well, I'm one of 18 people who do." And that's fine. But he said, "I'm not going to watch your content anymore." Because I guess when on the replay, what I've learned is that those who comment, and we love it, but those who comment are not allowed to have somebody throw an opinion back at them.
Oh, well, I mean, that's just the internet.
Like our chat room, you walk in there, you know it could be bullets flying.
It is weird, but biographical information, if you're watching later, Craig is a lifelong Oklahoma fan, so he in no way would ever be called a Texas homer. Smokey is a Nebraska fan. In spite of raising Craig went in a different direction.
Big time.
And
because somebody else who raised him.
Nebraska and Texas, from the moment that they got in the same conference, did not like each other on more than just an on-field level. It was, administrations that were divergent in their opinions. And my father is from College Station, or from Bryan, Texas. My entire family is from there. My mom's brother is an Aggie. I grew up in an Aggie family.
But you're a Texas homer.
But I will tell you this: when I was a kid, like, people would get me Texas stuff to, like, get my dad's goat. I never saw it, because I would see them again and be like, "Hey, did you get that burnt orange shirt that I got you?" What are you talking about?
Yep. Papa Catalina had put that somewhere, like in the fireplace or whatever. Sir, blah, blah, blah. Texas homers, I knew it. Biscuits and gravy, I always thought you were a closet orange blood. Don't join the dark side, from Paxton, who's a UT fan. And Chris is Smokey, secretly Bevo. I got to tell you, UT drove me nuts. And a lot of times they've driven me nuts because of topics and things, but they own Nebraska. It killed me from the first time they played in '96. Once they were a part of the Big 12, Nebraska got them one time, but it was not fun. It was very difficult, and it somehow, some way, it was going to happen, that UT was going to win that game, either in a blowout or just in the last second, and they did that quite a bit. Like the Big 12 championship game with the kick, the field goal, when Ndamukong Suh in Nebraska played about as well as they possibly could. Big Jack 512, bastards.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big part of the conversation, especially as it pertains to realignment and just college athletics in general. So it's inevitable that they're going to be brought up, and I think that they've done some good things as of late. They've also done some not so good things in the eyes of many fans across their current conference, obviously. But it'd be foolish to sit here and pretend like they don't have a pretty exciting future on the horizon. To what level of success that entails remains to be seen. And everybody's given their 2 years ahead of time predictions on whether they'll sink or swim right away in the SEC. But there are a lot of interesting storylines going on, and this Big 12's final season is going to be something else, I think. Obviously the additions of 4 new schools as well, and just that whole crossover, but the whole bon voyage of Oklahoma and Texas and football and basketball and all the other sports here in the next few months is really going to be an interesting time, and probably a little bit bittersweet, at times as well.
Sure.
I mean, it's going to be a huge changeover.
Not according to Jamie Pollard.
Well, I mean, not according to him, but, I think that if there's good things to say good things, and if there's not, say that too. And right now I think there's more good than bad to say for sure.
But, we have officially been crowned jeweled 365 Sports, and so there we are with that. So, by the way, other story involving the Big 12, Iowa State, who's now on a slide. They've lost 8 of 10. They play Saturday late morning against Baylor in Waco. Jared Stansbury, we've had Jared on talking Iowa State, does a great job. Caleb Grill is no longer a member of the men's basketball team. A press release from the school. He was dismissed due to a failure to meet the program's expectations. He played this past weekend, 18 points in 18 minutes, did not score. And Evan Miyakawa, who's a guest on our show, all the analytics, what Craigie said very quickly, that this guy is one of the glue guys. He's one of the best players, if not the guy that at times for Iowa State that he will be sorely missed with 1 game left in the regular season. So there's that with that. Barry Crawford, who is on the chat room, thrilled for you. Barry just said he was cleared to be able to start walking again by his doctor. I didn't know what happened. A deer hit me on my motorcycle, been mostly bedbound for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Barry, we're a family, even though sometimes we fight like cats and dogs, but God bless you. Great news from you. We love to have those stories shared with us. Had great news from Joey Foster over the weekend about him being cleared from things that he had battled in the last couple of 2 or 3 years. That was great news, too.
It's not deer season now, but somebody please, when it comes around, shoot a deer and get that meat to Barry, please. For vengeance.
Little venison jerky or something, yeah.
I am still looking for the Cajun smoked venison deer sausage that I never have found in any way since Burley Lamb, the great Burley Lamb, who's a friend of Eric Horton, who has all the candles that we have. He passed away, but he had the best Cajun smoked venison sausage. So if anyone does do that and you want to send me some of that, I'll take it. I'll buy it from you. I love the venison. No cheese, but smoked Cajun, a little bit of kick to it. Sandra Green, come on, Big 12. You know you're going to miss Texas at Oklahoma. Jamie Pollard disagrees. That went viral last week. And I don't know. I think that both of them move on. They enjoy their new neighborhood and who they have to deal with. And I think the Big 12 is ready to move on. Will I keep up with them? Hell yes. Because I have all my life, and I will. We will.
I don't think I think there'll be some things that you miss about the rivalries and whatnot. I mean, heck, Oklahoma State lost their biggest one. There's no question about that. Like, their big premier game that they get to talk about is over after this year, and in Bedlam. So there are things that they're going to miss, but I don't think that administratively, the way that things have worked for quite some time, I don't think that most of the people are going to miss each other. I think that's on both sides. I think that is to the point of where everybody is probably where they need to be. And it's unfortunate that rivalries and things have to die, but you can't really stand in the way of change when it's coming.
Mike Bean said this is a great divorce.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, because I don't think anybody is lamenting it now that they're like everybody has a plan.
Considering where they were, Craig, in July of 21, where everybody is now, they know their future. They know when it all begins. They know how many years left to play in a 14-team division. Everyone knows how much they're going to get or get paid or have to pay. And it does seem like it's now amicable if they move forward. Doesn't mean people aren't going to want to beat each other. They should. But it does seem like it's going to be a little bit more relaxed than it was, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been firmly established at this point, that everybody's fine with the direction. Everybody's good. I mean, there's not really any reason to sling mud on the way out here. I think that everybody will embrace this final year, make it the best they possibly can. I mean, there's some unfinished business in this calendar. Is part of the calendar first this spring semester before we, officially get into the final countdown beginning in August. But, yeah, I mean, like, their moves, like I said yesterday, it's understandable, and anybody else in the same position would do the exact same thing they are. And, I don't blame them whatsoever outside of just maybe the way it was potentially going to be handled. But for the 1,000th time, we don't know how they were going to handle it. It got broke, the story, before they ever had an opportunity to say anything officially. So were they going to screw over the Big 12? That's the question we'll never know. Were they going to drag it out until there's truly only 18 months left and then say, oh, by the way, yeah, we're out of here? I don't know. But it worked out the way that it did. It allowed the Big 12 to pivot and go grab 4 schools that will be introduced starting next year and basically save themselves. It led to not only those additions, but to a new television contract and being able to act on that with a new commissioner. It led to a lot of change, but I think it's changed for the better for both sides. I think the Big 12, with the 4 schools they added, with more of probably an equal landscape overall, and not so much of a feeling that you've got a couple of programs that are just always feeling like they're a bit better than you are or higher on the totem pole than you are. I don't know how much that really poisoned the Big 12 at all. You hear, the tales of Texas, blah, blah. I don't know how much that really, poisoned what would have been otherwise for the Big 12. Because, at the same time, they were also, there was Oklahoma year after year after year getting the Big 12 into the college football playoff, or Heisman Trophy winners. I mean, they brought a lot of attention, a lot of winning, and they're massive brands. And so they want to go spread their wings, but the Big 12 is going to spread their wings in a different direction. And, yeah, I think both are content with where they're going.
We haven't changed how we feel about this really over the last couple of years. It's just now we know the ending from Kim Coulter. He said, okay, Smokey and Paxton, UT, and also Craig and Paul, you can get mad at me again, but I could give 2 you-know-whats about Oklahoma and Texas and hope they both lose every game in the SEC. Being a fan is being able to dislike other schools.
That's fun, yeah.
And that's fine. And Sandra Green, also said she likes all the schools in the Big 12 from Texas other than Tech. Well, that would be TCU and Baylor.
And Houston.
And Houston starting, of course, this upcoming season.
Yeah, I don't know. You can't I guess people can do what they want, but I think you got to have some rules, right? You can't two rivals. I mean, what happens when they play each other? You know?
Yeah, I mean that's to the individual, I suppose, to have their own set of rules on how they do that. Maybe it's a coin flip, or maybe I don't know how that works. But I mean, I don't blame anybody for feeling however they want to feel about it. If you want to, remain upset that the conference had to turn this direction because Oklahoma and Texas decided to make a move for the betterment of themselves, I understand that. If you feel like they were going to leave everybody else out to dry and maybe damage their futures had Brent Zwerneman not broken that story when he did, I totally understand that. If you're somebody that wants to say, hey, I never really liked you, but I respected you, good luck on your journey, and good luck to us as we move forward in a different direction, I respect and understand that. And if you could care less, I respect that too. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on it. I'm just at the point now where it's gone on, where we've talked about this for well over a year now at this point, and I think a lot of the feelings of bad blood and all that, I mean, at this point, they've negotiated their settlement. We know what the exit is. All the questions have really been answered, and so now it's just time to start the countdown clock to their exit, and I'm just looking forward to not so much like a lot of mudslinging and all that, but just what should be, like I said from the very beginning, minutes ago, a very wild and interesting year in the Big 12.
Rusty Berry, I look forward to the new Big 12, but none of the new teams will draw the hatred in Lubbock like Texas.
Yeah, that's
probably good, but not as entertaining.
Oklahoma, too. I mean, I don't know that they drew as much hate as Texas got, but they definitely drew the same crowds and drew big TV ratings and drew, like when they came to town, that was a game that probably everywhere from Manhattan to Waco to Lubbock to wherever, that's one of those games that you wanted to go to when those brands came to town, right? I mean, that's when you had your biggest, probably most excitable crowds for the most part, and definitely mostly over the years. So, yeah, I think that is a loss, that you won't have those games to kind of circle, those proving grounds against the big brands, so to speak. But, we'll see how it works out moving forward. And, that will be an adjustment period for sure, not having that deeply ingrained history and rivalry. You don't have that with UCF. If you're most of these teams, or Cincinnati, you don't have that background. So that is going to be a change, but change is part of life.
And those rivalries are, as those new relationships begin in the Big 12, just like back in '96, you had some teams in the Big 8 who might have played each other, the Southwest Conference. That'll slowly build up. From OPD Don.
Hold on. And then for Texas and Oklahoma, go look at that LSU baseball game last night with UT and Austin. Tell me they're not going to just seamlessly slide right into being emphatically excited about where they are. Y'all see that environment down in Austin for that LSU? That was insane, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was.
It was an awesome game. LSU with a big bomb late puts them over the top. They're the number one team in the country, but the SEC is king. When it comes to football, and has been for years now. But, they also are the flavor of the, I guess, recent years in baseball as well, and certainly right now. And that was a big-time environment. And so, you can't not watch that game or clips from it last night and not see how excited OU and UT are going to be for more games and more series and more matchups like that. So, yeah, everybody, it's going to work out. Hopefully for everyone involved. It's just going to be different for everyone involved, for the better and in some cases the worse.
By the way, you may not have seen this story, and Garrett and who's the one that brought it to Matthew Meyer?
I mentioned it.
Yeah. Matthew Meyer, former Baylor, and he was a hell of a player, transferred to Illinois, admitted today that he's been sick the past few days with caffeine poisoning. Now, he's having a good year. Illinois probably needs to kind of finish strong. Said he drank 5 Monster energy drinks while playing video games on Sunday after the game with Ohio State, and that this is his first day back at practice. Would Monsters be a caffeine, or would it be a sugar poisoning?
All of it. All of it. I'll tell you right now, and I don't care if Monster never sponsors this show, it's poisoning. That stuff is poison.
I love it, and I think Matthew Meyer's a liar. Go Monster energy drinks. I'm just kidding. I don't care for any of that type of stuff as far as the energy drinks go. Yeah. But that's not surprising. That sounds like a lot from from just sitting there
One
playing
of
video
them is a
games.
lot.
Yeah, 5
Okay.
of them. Just that's
Garrett,
quite a bit.
Have you ever had a Monster drink?
I'm not touching a Monster.
Have you ever had one?
No, I haven't. The only energy drink I've ever had is a Red Bull, and I had like 2 drinks
What's
of it.
the difference?
I just,
Nothing.
Different brands.
They're
So-
awful.
All right. It's just like, yeah, okay.
Give me coffee.
Emery? Nope. Jack?
I think Jack's got his headset in.
Jack's got his headsets in. Paul?
I've had a Red Bull when I was in college when it first came out. I had
With alcohol?
Red Bull and vodka was a very popular drink, but I did not like it. It tastes like paint thinner, and it just smells terrible. So,
All right, Craig?
I mean, of course I have. I mean, I've tried Monster. I've tried a Red Bull. I don't like the smell of it. That's something that I found was not very appetizing to me. I could just smell it on other people like alcohol, almost. And I didn't like the smell, and I just didn't care for the feeling from it either. So no, I've tried it, sure, but not that big of a deal for
I'm
me.
guilty.
you feel attacked?
I'm guilty, huh?
Do you feel attacked?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, some people do other things that I don't do, but yeah, I've been one that has liked always for a long time the green energy Monster drinks. I have.
Hey, I'm telling you,
but
if you drink 5 in a night,
I think my max would have been 4.
oh dear God! But if you drink more than one, honestly, like you're probably lucky you didn't run up against Pablo Escobar because he would have got you hooked. I mean, jeez, that's insane.
Bo Stacker on the chat room. I drink a Red Bull every day.
No,
BU, yes, Red Bull, Deep Eddy.
Yeah, I think it's
Sipping
more
one
Matthew
now.
Meyer having 5 while playing video games. That's the main reason why that's a quote that's standing out. Not so much the fact that he drinks them, because I know a lot of people do, and again, to each their own on what you prefer. But yeah, I think that's the volume in a setting like that seems like a lot.
I've never liked any of the other flavors. From Zach Pangus, back in my day, I had a BFC, big freaking can, and 2 normal size, and I came out just fine.
All right, well, there you go.
BU, yes, but never after 7 o'clock.
Maybe a little jittery, but you came out fine, yeah.
Mike M, 4 Loco.
Oh, that stuff is
That's a different ballgame.
That's
From Laura Weiss, 5, that's a heart attack waiting to happen. From Red Bull, had a cola that was pretty good. But I think they discontinued that from Taylor Mott.
I remember they had, I don't know if they might still have it, but back in the day they came out with Joke Cola, which was, a regular cola drink that had more caffeine than, your regular Pepsi or Coke. And I had it one time and I thought, why would you need more that's in a regular Coke? It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, Coke seems like it's enough on its own.
got enough.
Another jolt of Coca-Cola, yeah.
I don't drink the regular. I drink diet. You see it here. Craig does too. But I don't drink the heavy duty, the full blend Coke.
I will say one time in college, in my probably junior year or so, I was up against kind of a paper deadline, and I took a 5-hour energy at 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to write it. And the last page of it was absolute
Trash.
dribble.
Yeah,
I mean, just...
Red Wine
Sentences
Monster
like
has
just
some
fading
okay
off.
models. Barry Crawford, who we talked about earlier, the tea and lemonade Monster is super free and non-carbonated. Sir Blah 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 have never tried any kind of energy drink. And then the last one from John, it's actually banned in some countries.
Should be. Absolutely should be. It's not good for you. $5 super chat from Chris. Guys, West Virginia's been part of the Big 12 for a decade. What have been your impressions of the Mountaineers, good and bad so far? I don't have any bad ones.
I've liked it. I've liked the fact there have been some great memories of with big wins for them, and also some memories where I'll never forget when they played Baylor back when Art Browse and company had that dynamic offense. And after the game, the defensive coordinator all but said that it was catastrophic, because they were beaten up with the running game and the passing game. I think gave up 70 points. Remember the 70-63 game back in Morgantown in 2012? So, and then basketball. I love Huggy. And, they've had to kind of scratch through this year and had a nice win. In fact, yesterday evening with a nice win on the road against Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've had some
yeah.
I think they've had some good moments. I don't think it's quite been what they've wanted it to be, obviously, or you wanted it to be as a West Virginia fan. I think that, You probably felt like you were in a good spot prior to all of the upheaval over a decade ago now at this point. So you talk about that Geno Smith game, and he's like a 7-year veteran in the NFL at this stage. That was a decade ago, that West Virginia Baylor duel.
It was 2012.
Over a decade ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so a lot's happened since then. I think it's been unfortunate they haven't quite found their footing, especially here in football as of late. I like Neil Brown. I think everybody does, as a person, but the questions do remain and are hot and heavy heading into this season as far as, what they're going to look like and how well they'll play and how, that could potentially affect, what they do with the program moving forward now that they have a new AD and a guy that we know very well. But, I like the Mountaineers. I think it's a unique school location for the conference, and I'm just glad for them that it's not going to hopefully feel as much as though they're the extreme outsider all alone by themselves on an island, and that although it's not like Cincinnati or UCF or these new additions are right next door, that hopefully that alleviates some of the feeling of geographically being displaced compared to the rest of the conference. But yeah, nothing bad to say about the Mountaineers. Made for some fun environments.
All right, we have much more to get to, and we will. At 5 o'clock, Scott Drew, John Machota at 5:30, NFL Combine going on in Indianapolis. And I saw yesterday a couple of people who mentioned that when we have an NFL segment, you tune off. Right now, a lot of the NFL segments are going to be very much about college prospects for the NFL draft. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and perhaps used to be. Perhaps 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that is you. Sex drive, energy, sleep habits, something's just not right. Dr. Petty can help find out if, in fact, some of what that is your testosterone level has dropped. As you get older and father time takes over. It happens. 1 out of every 3 men. It's just part of nature in a way. So he can then set you up to get your blood work. He will look at the lab results. And if your testosterone level is too low, Dr. Petty and his staff will put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Tell them I sent you. PettyClinicLowT.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Steve Howen sent this text to me yesterday evening. Rob Dauster brought up Mick Cronin at UCLA. Steve sent this to me. A list of coaches who are younger than Scott Drew and have more wins. There's one, Mick Cronin. 9 months younger, 17 more wins out of everybody. And Scott Drew is, for most of the case, a young coach. Doesn't mean there's not a lot of younger coaches in college basketball, 350 whatever, Division I programs is going to be. But only UCLA's Mick Cronin, who almost played against Scott Drew at UCLA in that Final Four in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That dramatic loss to Gonzaga.
It makes you wonder if he had just taken over Baylor and they had a normal situation, what his wins and losses would be, because, you have to, he's blown well past the point where it's even discussing what he stepped into now. But, as far as when it comes to total wins and losses, the first 2 years of his coaching tenure, you kind of have to just throw out the window because of just the human beings total that he had on the roster. And the guys, the walk-on tryouts on campus are usually, for the most part, preferred walk-ons, and then maybe a couple guys you might kind of find diamonds in the rough that do show up because they're posted and they see, here's how I walk onto the basketball team. But it was actual, please come here and walk onto the team. We need people to help us play in games.
Yep.
It was like that. So, yeah, you add, even just an average mediocre first couple of seasons in there for him, and he's probably got 20 more wins.
Yeah, that's impressive, and I don't want to take away from it at all, because it is impressive. There's a lot of other coaches who are not that high on the list, but he's also been coaching for 2 decades now too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He stepped in as 33-year-old head coach at a situation where nobody else really wanted to be, and so that's how it started. And yeah, you're right. He had at least a couple of years at the very beginning where that didn't add very much to the totals that we're now talking about. So not to take away at all from what he's done. It's one of the most incredible rebuilding, reorganizing, restructuring, whatever you want to call it, situations in college athletics history. It's Hall of Famer stuff, but he has been at it a while. You look at the list, he as of last year, and I don't know about this year, but as of last year, because this is the most recent I could find, one of the top 10 longest tenured coaches in all of college basketball.
Yeah, that puts everything in perspective.
Yeah, he's there with Bill Self. We just saw Mike Bray at Notre Dame? He was on that list.
And he's kind of flopping now on whether or not, last I saw, he might not retire.
Yeah, so he's ahead of Scott, but we don't know how that
might end, but, Boeheim's number one. He's been at it, obviously, for a really long time. Izzo, Mark Few, and there's others. But yeah, Scott Drew's top 10 as far as longest tenured college basketball coaches. So that does play into it, but that's, again, not to take away from the exceptional job that he did. And quite frankly, not everybody could have done. Not everybody would have had the patience or the ability to just hang in there, whether it was early on or even at times when, not that long ago, quite frankly, there are people writing articles about how he should be fired, despite the fact that they were
one person.
Still pretty, yeah, I know, but still pretty good. And there was, and not just from one person, maybe an article, but in general, there was that whole Scott Drew can't coach motto.
The Georgia State game, right? Is that the one? Yeah.
I feel like that was around before that, though, too.
Yeah.
Like, that was just around.
Oh, the Scott Drew can't coach. Yeah,
like that was a well-known, well-talked about thing, I feel like. So, he's completely erased all of that, and it's mightily impressive no matter how you slice it.
All right, so I brought up this Kansas thing, that here's one, if not the bluest of all the blue bloods, and North Carolina and Kentucky and all of them are in the argument. But so they just won a national title, and it blew my mind, and they've been in like 6 other national title games, but the last national title before last year was 2008. What happened in 2008?
The Memphis couldn't shoot free throws.
Yeah, Jalen Rose team, right? They could not shoot free throws with Calipari.
Not Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose, yeah.
And then
14 years.
Yeah, they couldn't shoot free throws, and Mario Chalmers was draining threes.
Yeah, hit the big one.
Like it was the only thing he knew how to do in life.
So this is Kansas. 14 years since their last one. Now, again, if you get one, man, it kind of just sets you up. And there's some that are like the Cinderella type of deals. Baylor wasn't. They buzzsawed everybody. The one before 2008 was Danny Manning in 1988 with a basically He-Man, almost Carmelo Anthony, let me load you up and take you to a national title, and beat a fantastic Oklahoma team in 88, 20 years prior to that. Before then was in the 50s with Wilt, and they have a couple back in the 20s. So it made me put this in perspective. Steve sent this text to me. Looking forward to the segment today with Scott Drew. I know any thinking Baylor fan is eternally grateful for what he has done. Still, last year is a perfect example. 27-7, Big 12 title, 4th in the final AP poll despite injuries sidelining John and Cryer. Yet many just remember the second overtime exit to the also eventual national championship finalist and say, decent year. The expectations were huge, of course. It's now Final Four or bust. Does he want to deal with this for the next 20 years?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what you coach for.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wanted to not have expectations to make the tournament every year, then there's plenty of other schools he could go to. But that's not why folks get into the game. They embrace the pressure. Scott Drew would rather go to the Final Four every year and lose any day over not making the tournament on a regular basis or just making it once in a blue moon, right? I mean,
sure.
You want to go as deep as you can, and it's going to result in heartbreak on occasion and maybe more often than not. But you still want to take this thing as far as it can go, and sometimes it's just not going to go as far as you would like. That's just the breaks. That's part of the deal. Coach K only won so many national titles. Roy Williams only won so many. I mean, name any legendary coach. And I know there's tons and tons.
Wooden is the one at the top.
Wooden's at the top. Like, there's only so many coaches out there with multiple national championships. It's a hard thing to do, and probably in basketball is as hard as anywhere else. I know there can be an argument for football at this point of, like, if you're not in a certain league, how much more difficult is it and all that. But yeah, I mean, absolutely he'd rather – have a few crushing losses, and expectations that follow with that are high stakes, high pressure than the alternative.
Well, and there's been, there's a lot of people who kind of, and you go always, and you do that, you inflect kind of your expectations and your values on the situation.
Sure, Final Four bust too is a little bit extreme.
But with Scott Drew, everybody's always has been waiting for him to, since he's won at Baylor, jump and take another job. But if you look at what his upbringing was with Homer Drew, his father, Homer Drew had one job for a very long time. Scott's had one job for a very long time, and intends that because Valpo was Homer's program. There was no doubt about it. It was Homer's program. And when you say, okay, well, I'm going to leave Baylor because I've done all I can and I've won a national championship, and it's not a 100% basketball school. You know, I want to go to a basketball school. Well, if you say he went to Kentucky, Billy Gillispie found this out in a hurry, right? Was that ever Billy Gillespie's program?
No.
He would have had to win 5 national championships for it to be Billy Gillespie's program. It has become John Calipari's program because his personality is so gigantic that he made it that way. But he's only won 1 title there. 1. He's competed deep in, but it's been a long time for him too at Kentucky, which should be automatic based on their history, but it's not because it's hard. And Scott Drew is now on the verge of getting everything he's ever wanted as a basketball coach at the school that he built into a power, in that they're getting a new arena, right over here. And that, what does he have to worry about? Trying to get people out to the thing? Well, now there's a new arena and there's less people to fill it up. All of it's kind of coming up roses for him. So sometimes the grass is as green as it's ever going to be, and that's what it is for him here.
He's building it. He's built it into that, where the expectations are with some of those others that just had a longer start time to becoming the elite in college basketball. All right, so yesterday, a couple of notes on Mack Rhoades. Craig does a summary. We have Mack on. Of course, he got a lot of attention. A lot of times is quoted in various media outlets. But I want to go over a couple of different things again of what he said yesterday. When we brought up unequal revenue sharing, one of his quotes was, and again, this is reviewed and summarized in now premium section with Craig usually the day after we have Mack on. My gut reaction is absolutely not when we discussed unequal revenue sharing. We've heard that because of some of the simmering in the ACC with what might happen with Florida State, Clemson, whoever else. We've even heard, whether it's true or not, that perhaps Washington and Oregon would like a little extra money if, in fact, they're going to hang around no matter what or whenever something happens with the Pac-12. We even saw it, and I saw this, but even part of columns or opinion pieces, that if they were to join the Big 12, they would want more. Nope, that's not going to happen. But if they stay in the Pac-12, perhaps that is an option. We don't know if that's even been discussed. My gut reaction, absolutely not. And I would probably want to spend a little bit more time maybe thinking about it. Is there a circumstance or two where it would be accepted by other members? I think it would have to be really unique, probably dire circumstances for that, but I think that's really hard. As I look to the future, the Big 12 and the 12-member institutions, I just don't see a scenario where that can happen, nor should it happen. What would be unique?
Notre Dame calling and saying, hey, we want to join the Big 12.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's all I thought about. It wouldn't be Iowa, Oregon, and Washington. With all due respect to them, they're both fantastic programs and would be great additions. But, again, that seems like it's a pipe dream, if it's even a dream. But Notre Dame, yes, pipe dream again, but, yes, that would probably be the unique circumstance where they would then do that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, obviously, so don't want the headline out there on Mack Rhoades this time around. Mack Rhoades, he definitely didn't mention any school by name, but he did say it would have to be a unique circumstance, as you just read off there. And, that's open to interpretation, but I think you can clearly interpret that there's not a lot of those options out there, as you're saying. And we mentioned one of them, and the other one that would be most likely, you kind of touched on there, would be an Oregon-Washington situation. But I thought about it. I don't see why they're just steps ahead of the remaining schools.
Not enough to where you give more money.
Yeah, I don't see where they would command more money, that duo, or even one of them. That wouldn't fly. So outside of Notre Dame, which is not going to happen, by the way, that's not realistic, that would be the only scenario that I could see, which is basically what he points to. It would have to be like an out-of-this-world type. I mean, he said as much. It would have to be a very unique situation, and it's not one that's all that realistic. So, yeah, I think that they're going to be, a conference that's one filled with peers that are all pretty much looking each other eye to eye, and if they're not, it's not by much. Whereas in the Pac-12 moving forward,
depending on how that TV deal sits, and regardless of how that TV deal sits, really, you do wonder about the power imbalance of a couple of those schools. And then there's also the Stanford-Cal, part of that mix as well, because while we may not think of them athletically as the premier destination for college sports, or college football mostly being the talking point in this case, Stanford obviously very good, throughout the programs, but the money-making side of it, that was the Big Ten rumor mill too, right? It was going to be Oregon, and it was going to be Washington, and it was going to be Stanford, and it was going to be Cal. It was going to be 4 schools joining, and like if it wasn't Cal, it was somebody else. That was rumored there for a little while, and that's clearly not what was in the cards for the Big Ten. And Kevin Warren since has taken another job, so. Yeah, I mean, there's going to either be, some teams that join and they're just going to be peers, or there's going to be some teams that sit back in the pack, like in Oregon and Washington, and perhaps puff their chest out and want a little bit more money. And, that shouldn't be surprising given that we've seen it now in the ACC and how Florida State and Clemson have started to kind of puff their chest out a little bit. And you see the chess pieces, the way they moved around. There's brands that have now consolidated themselves into 2 conferences where they are mostly on equal footing, and there's some very fortunate historical schools that are just luckily timed schools that found their way in there previous to that are going to benefit from that as well. And then there's 3 other conferences that are figuring all the rest out and how they can possibly remain somewhat eye to eye or on the same ground as those 2 conferences, and that's going to be nearly impossible. But the Big 12 does sit in a cozier seat than was expected a year ago. The ACC is cozy, but not to the extent that obviously their bigger brands want.
They're consistent.
They're consistent, yeah, and they're going to be consistent for a long time, whereas the Pac-12, it's a total crapshoot right now. So I am curious to see what that deal looks like for a variety of reasons, but also, is there any part of Oregon and Washington that feel like, you know what, this is such a not great deal that we feel like we have to ask for a bit more of the piece of the pie, and what does that result in? That would be fascinating, but until we know the deal, we're not going to know if there's a demand on their part to feel like they need to stick out a bit more above the rest. And if they do, then that will create another very interesting situation that they'll have to deal with.
All right, it's something to think about. I thought that was one of his, and there were always good quotes, and it's in the premium section with Mac Rhodes yesterday on that, and of course him clearing the air with some who just read a headline rather than the quotes. And appreciate again 247 for actually giving us credit, but also using the exact quote from Mac Rhodes from a week ago.
Yeah, and I mean, that wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it is jarring to some people to see an AD just out there saying, like, yeah, if the Pac collapses, we're going to be ready for it. I mean, that's just not what we're typically accustomed to business-wise. So I don't blame some people on the West Coast for getting a little bit up in arms or a little bit like, what the heck? Why is he talking about us so openly? But I think it's just there's nothing to keep secret. It's very open and obvious. The Pac-12's in TV negotiations, and there's the potential that if they don't get to a certain figure, there could be some schools that aren't too happy with that and could potentially look elsewhere. And the place to look would be the Big 12, who is saying and has said since Brett Yormark's hiring, we're open for business. And you can interpret that how you want to, but it's exactly what it means. If there's business to be done and it's going to benefit the Big 12, whether that's in Oregon or whether it's a Washington, whether that's a four-corner school, whether that's Gonzaga in basketball, whatever the idea is, they're at least open to it, and so that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody moving forward.
I think they're more than open to it. I think that they're, as in fact, Max said, he doesn't wish him ill will, but they would be being a disservice to themselves, the conference, et cetera, if they are not ready to go and get something if, in fact, it becomes available. And again, George Kliavkoff with the comment about we're not sure if we're going to go shopping or not. And that was a direct shot back. And there's been a lot of that. It's what it is. All right, at 4:52, we'll have Scott Drew today at 5 o'clock. They have Iowa State to close out the regular season coming up, of course, on Saturday, 11 o'clock, and the women play later on that afternoon against West Virginia. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, shop and buy from a large inventory on their lot. I was there just the other day. I had to get an oil change. I've gone by there to get a couple of things with maintenance. It's always very smooth with what they do. AJ, sales rep, he is client manager is what they call those who help you find the vehicle you're looking for, whether it's a truck, an SUV, or whatever, even pre-owned or brand new. Shop and buy. Build your deal online if you want to by going to Alan Samuels, DodgeChryslerJeep.com. it's there for you. And they have all of the colors and brands and shapes and much more. A new month has begun. When they get values and discounts, I'll have those for you, as I always do and as they always get to me. We do know this, that Ram truck is just monstrous. It's a powerful and also constantly winning awards back to back to back, one time at Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Ted Teague, the general manager. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or wacocustommarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
This Baylor Bear Hotline segment with Baylor men's basketball coach and national championship coach Scott Drew, brought to you by Richard Carr Motors. People you can count on. And speaking of that, Baylor could count on players that have had to come through with extra minutes in production the last couple of wins. Scott Drew joins us, Paul Craig and David Smoak. When a player like Dale Bonner is available and probably wasn't expecting to be, although you did tweak some things after the losses in Kansas, what does that say about him or anyone that even if they're not getting minutes, and all of a sudden they do and they're ready?
Well, coaches love to brag about great stories, and Dale's one of them. Early on in the season, was in the rotation, was playing. We trimmed down the rotation. He remained a great teammate, supported the guys that were playing, but yet kept working and kept improving. And when his number got called, he was ready and did a great job. And it's so easy to, as a teammate, to cheer for someone like that. As a coach, it's so easy to be happy for someone like that because they were ready and they took advantage of the situation. But most of all, when they weren't playing, they were a great teammate and stayed ready. And so often in sports, you get people that because of themselves or people get in their ear, you should be playing, you should be doing that. They become disgruntled. They're not a great teammate. Then they're not ready when they're called upon. And it's a great success story, and Dale deserves all the credit.
How much does it help when a guy like Dale gets in and his baskets in against Texas in his moments were just so huge, not only for extending your lead, but for the momentum of the crowd and that for confidence just shooting right into his veins?
Well, I think we all know how important it is playing in front of a home crowd, especially in the Big 12 best. I saw this, like 75% of the arenas or 75% capacity for Big 12 arenas this season. And if you take out non-conference games, I bet it's like 95%. So, I mean, it's packed places. And if you're the home team, you got to give your fans something to get behind and cheer for. And when you can get them involved, it's huge. And Dale obviously did that. And again, players feed off of their teammates. And because Dale was such a great teammate and people like and respect him so much, when he did well, I'm sure he could feel the genuine love everyone had for him and the support everyone had for him.
All right, Scott, Keontae George, we know he went down against Texas. Langston Love went out, got hit in the eye, and that swelled up on him. Any update you can give us today on their availability for Saturday?
Yeah, both are doing better, but as far as availability, we'll know closer to the end of the week. We don't know now. And the good thing is we played on Monday, which gives us more time for Langston. And Keontae, obviously, we got all week. So Dave Snyder and Charlie and the group are doing a great job with them. Those guys are working hard at controlling what they can control. And I know your last game in the Farrell Center this year, I know those guys will want to play, and they'll want to play in front of the home crowd. They'll try to send the seniors out on a high note.
Despite, other than the obvious that Dale Bonner gets more minutes, Langston Love was going to have more minutes, and he did Saturday, what else does the offense do better or differently when Keontae's not in there?
Well, I think each player brings different strengths to the team. And I know when you talk individual strengths, Dale Bonner, one of his biggest strengths is always his ability to get in the paint, create for others. And the other thing is he's a tremendous defender. And especially when he's active and flying around, it's inspiring not only the rest of his teammates, but giving the home crowd a lot to cheer for. So like the other night when Langston went out and we played Jalen at 3, obviously that gave our team a bigger, more strong physical look. When you play John at the 4 with Flo, that gives you a different look. So as coaches, there's only so many plans, though, you plan for going into a game. And our staff, Coach Jacobs, Coach Brooks, Coach Nunes, have done a great job adjusting with injuries on the fly and helping put us in good position to be successful.
Flo's almost been as many games as you have, Coach, at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, we can't give him any more balls because otherwise we won't have enough to practice with. I think he's got the game ball before the last how many games. So, but it's a great honor, great tribute. I know with the COVID year, you have a lot of people setting records. And you'll probably have a lot of people that played before the COVID year saying that, hey, that's unfair in the record books, but it is what it is.
Coach, obviously it was big to not only beat Texas, but also then follow that up with the win over Oklahoma State. You guys had a pretty comfortable lead, and that obviously was not the case there by the end. Just what kind of lessons learned, if anything, along those lines, I suppose. But what were your takeaways, I guess, is a better question as far as closing that game out the other night?
Well, I think the first 35 minutes, when you're up 17-19 with 5 to go, a lot of things had to work and be in your favor. And then the last 5 minutes, we all understand in the Big 12 that there's a rule. Every game has to be within 2 possessions, within 5 points in the last minute. So we did what we needed to do to have that. And but in all seriousness, I think you got to, first of all, credit Oklahoma State. They made a bunch of threes and some tough shots. We missed a couple open shots, and then we turned the ball over a couple times, missed a layup. So we'll go to the film. We'll work on doing things better and cleaner in the last 5 minutes. But at the same time, for the first 35 minutes to have a lead of 17, 19 points on the road in the Big 12, you're doing something well. And I thought our guys defensively to that point, we gave up a lot of offensive rebounds, but we actually scored more second chance points. So we were more efficient and effective with the rebounds we got. And going into the game, we were second in the Big 12 conference stats in defensive rebounding, so we had improved, but obviously took a step back. And again, that's where you got to give the opponent credit. I mean, they're playing to get in the NCAA tournament. They're trying to win, and they were really aggressive and did a good job.
Is it me, or have you been a little bit more, not, I guess, maybe vocal with the officials, a little bit more edgy with them? Or was that one of those where you were upset because you gave up too many offensive rebounds and the official was this close to you?
Maybe all of the above. I was a little frustrated too because I thought Langston, when he got scratched in the eye, and that situation. So, but at the end of the day, we are blessed to have the best officials in the country. And I think if you ask every coach, nobody is ever 100% satisfied with the officials, and they have a tremendously hard job. Coaches know because we officiate during practice, so it is a tough job, and we have the best of the best. At the same time, I think part of our job is to make sure we're conveying what we see, and normally Big 12 officials do a great job of allowing us to do that. And again, you look at the Final Four this year. The last year, 8 of the 11 officials were Big 12. 2 years ago, 8-11 were Big 12. So we do get the best of the best.
What is more difficult, the Saturday, Monday turnaround for Big Monday in the Big 12 or the day after turnaround in the NCAA tournament?
Oh, definitely Saturday, Monday, because it involves travel, where in the NCAA tournament, you're in the same location, same place. So the travel does wear on you, and I think everyone that's traveled understands that part of it's real. And at the same time, I think this time of year, especially in the Big 12, I mean, you know everybody's plays, you know their tendencies, and I mean, it's hand-to-hand combat and a dogfight, and they're so physical in that second game with travel involved. Either you traveled away on Saturday or traveled away on Monday, and the last 10 minutes of the game, nobody has legs, and you're not getting easy buckets. I mean, it becomes a real toughness thing.
Scott, again, we always appreciate your time when we get you. Craig brought this up earlier, that of everybody that's coaching college basketball, you're now like in the top or like 10th in overall time at a certain school. There's 351 programs, and I know you've been around a while, but that kind of blows me away that you're among that top 10 as far as longevity at a program right now.
Actually, there's 363 Division I.
63,
so
okay.
So there's a lot of them, but we've been really blessed to have great players, and that's allowed us to stay around. Great administration. I had great assistant coaches that have made us better. And any award any of us ever get, their team awards, it takes everybody, and that goes into media coverage, fan support. I mean, everything is important, and everything leads to winning. So anytime someone gets recognized, it's because everybody and what they're all contributing. And I remember first big excursion, me and you, Smoak, when you're barbecuing outside in the parking lot by yourself, me and you out there, right? Nowadays, there's a little more people at those games.
Yeah, that was a college game day the next day. You brought us some of those chicken jalapenos from George's. It was fantastic. Here comes Coach Drew in a golf cart. Paul, you were there. Hey, earlier this week, you were honored with the Coach Wooden Keys to Life Award. What does that mean to you?
It's a great team award, and again, doesn't get accomplished without everybody's involvement. And anytime you're associated with Coach Wooden on anything, it means a lot more than X's and O's and championships. It means character, integrity, the way you live your life, and that's one of the highest honors you can have because he's so well thought of for all the right reasons.
You know what? I have to ask you about Nikki Collin. They've had an up and down, of course, at times with players who are eligible or injured, whatever. What do you think that meant to the program with the win they had on Monday night at Texas?
I think, first of all, Nikki is tremendous. Like, her and her staff are unbelievable to work with. Everybody loves them. They're doing a great job. Coaches, just like you, if you're right now, if the satellite reception goes out and no one hears you, you're only as good as everything that surrounds you and working together. Coaches are only as good as our players, and you have injuries some year, you have illnesses, you just have bad luck. I know she's put together a really good roster, and when they all get around to playing and being able to go, it allows her to do a lot more things as a coach. But to go on the road and beat Texas on a Monday after Texas had beaten us here, that says a lot about her, and she's gonna be tremendously successful at Baylor. And anyone that's got a chance to spend any time with her, I know how much they think of her and like her, and she's a great ambassador for Waco and Baylor and the community.
I got to ask you about Paul Mills, too, at Oral Roberts. Scott, he is 18-0 in the league. I don't care what league you are in. To not have one night once you get into the conference where it's not going your way is unbelievable. And I think no matter what happens in their conference tournament, that you got to put Oral Roberts in this thing.
Well, Coach Mills, Coach Patterson, those guys have done a great job. And you can go back and look at who's been undefeated in their conference in the last 10 years, and I bet you it's only within 5 maybe schools. So to be able to do that, especially today's with the parity and all the things that go into going undefeated, so huge accomplishment for them. They've had a great year. Coach McCaslin's had a great year at North Texas. Coach Tangs obviously should be National Coach of the Year. So those guys have all done really well. Coach Driscoll, they were really hot, won 6-8, and then they lost in the conference championship. So really proud and excited for all those guys' success.
I got to ask you this, if you don't mind. Is there a breather now that you're even though there's the tournament in Kansas City, how many games you play, and then there's the 6 you hope to play in the NCAA. Is there kind of a deep breath after you get through Saturday with Iowa State that the regular season Big 12 tournaments, our schedule is over?
Actually, there is. It's probably 24 hours, and then after that, you start worrying about Sunday. You're breaking down film because you play an early game, so 1 o'clock. Normally, by Saturday afternoon or evening, you're breaking everything down. I think this Saturday I won't do any film, and then on Sunday we'll know who we're playing and start breaking it down. So within how many hours ever that is, that's the break that I will have. Yeah.
Coach, I know you've already got a lot on your mind, a lot on your plate, but have you given any type of thought to the fact this will be the last regular season finale at the Farrell Center for the program?
No, I haven't, but thank you. I will add that to the list. So, and I tell you, the fans, we've had tremendous support in conference. It's gotten better and better every game, and I know Aaron Bean, Michaela, and Noah have done great with the fan engagement, and I mean that Texas environment was rocking, and hopefully I know it's an early game, 11 o'clock on Saturday, but hopefully we can send the seniors out the right way, and hopefully we can finish on a high note and a bang, because the students section's been tremendous, and the whole Farrell Center has really given us a great home court advantage. So thank everyone that's helped us.
Scott, thank you. We'll see you Saturday. Scott Drew, Baylor's national championship head basketball coach, with us on 365 Sports.
I know that's a random question, but did you guys even think about that?
No, I did not. Not at all.
The last regular season finale ever
I
at the
went
Farrell
by
Center.
there today. I just happened to drive on MLK, and, I mean, you see the roof going up. I mean, the skeleton, it's a brand new arena, right?
Yeah, sorry. For those that don't know, like, they will play there to start next year, but what's in January, I believe, next January, that they, like a year from now,
the first conference game's supposed to be there. So
conference is supposed to start at the new arena.
Yeah. So for sure, the season will probably end there. I mean, and they're hoping that the conference season starts there.
The new arena, yeah.
the new arena.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely the last finale there. Look, even if I'm almost positive that Mac might make them go play over there, even if they didn't have the roof done.
Right, yeah.
But,
no, you're right.
But, yeah, getting it done. But it's going to be tremendous.
It doesn't change the skyline at all because there's not much of a skyline, but it definitely it's a noticeable new structure on your right when you're driving into Waco from the north, or on your left if you're driving from the south.
It's kind of wild to think of it, and it was beyond time for them to do that and have another arena. The Farrell Center, while it's fine, it's past its expiration date as a basketball facility, because there are new innovations and things. And then things that they, of course, when they built the thing, they never thought. I don't think when they built the Farrell Center, they never thought in their wildest dreams that they would be a men's basketball or a women's basketball powerhouse when that stadium was built. It was not in there. They were just, we would like to have a nice basketball arena so that when people come to games, it's nice. I mean, I think that there were probably some people, the optimists of all optimists, that thought that, but there's certainly been a shift in the last 20 years of how Baylor has focused on athletics, and the greatest coach that they had in anything before. I guess you could probably put Clyde Hart up there with him, but in track. But Coach Taff wrestled with it while he was there. Of some years you're just not going to get what you want, Coach. And that doesn't happen.
You're say a different name.
Yeah.
You're saying the most successful?
Until a certain point in their history. They had, Coach Taff was there, and when he was winning at football, most of the times when you win at football, and we've seen that other, here, especially when the coaches start winning, you don't tell them, well, Coach, you don't get what you want this year.
No.
Maybe not for another couple years, but get us another good team again, and we'll talk about it again. And then it just got to the point where
his stories are legendary about the fact that underneath the stands was the whatever there was of a weight room with maybe a clink there and there. It's different. The facilities on the campus, and they're only going to get better with the pavilion, which is right there on 35, and also the Brazos River, and also, of course, the new football operations center.
Here I was thinking that, the whole arms race had cooled off a little bit just because of the fact that, how many – I use this example all the time, but I feel like this was just the height of the decadence was the colored waterfalls in the facilities. It's just like, what else can we spend money on? Let's put a waterfall in here. And let's put special lights so it's like the team colors. I just felt like that was when they were like, we can't hide the money anymore. Like it's just got to go somewhere, guys. We got to do something. So I felt like that was kind of the last days of that. But now as we've seen, I think the whole realignment saga and expansion saga and what all that's going to eventually, turn into, but what it already has been, you've seen Texas Tech with their massive investment, in this large facility for football. You've seen Kansas, just the other day, started talking about, the facilities the football facilities and the upgrades there. I mean, there's been
Oklahoma State this week
launched their
$325 million.
Put out their public plan to raise money to also redo a bunch of their facilities. And I know that the 4 schools coming in, they have various plans on what they're trying to do and try to get to, a certain level as a new Big 12 institution to match their peers. But yeah, I mean, I think the gaudiness of it is mostly over. Although, Tech's, if you look at their mock, I mean, that's a huge facility. But I think like a lot of the gaudiness and excess
is kind of in the rearview mirror, but certainly the desire to always keep up with the Joneses or always to be on that next thing is of the utmost importance. And I think they've made some big investments, and let's see now how they pay off. But that basketball arena is setting up to be something else, and I can't wait to see what that's like.
All right, so there is that. And again, we appreciate those of you who had questions. I had one, I think Bobby B was like, can you ask him what happened between he and the official as far as Jerry Pollard? He pretty much answered it. I think he's got to be careful about going too far into that. And but he was frustrated. I thought he was frustrated. He mentioned the Langston Love getting poked in the eye. I get that, no question. Who had already been called for a foul during that same moment, but also his team was getting absolutely beaten up, not because of lack of calls, beaten up in effort and athleticism when it comes to offensive rebounds. Sometimes the ball just bounces off the rim a little bit different, and you're in the right place at the right time. All right, so at 5:30, bottom of the hour, we're going to hear from John Machota. The NFL Combine, of course, has begun. One Big 12 note, and this has got Brett Yarmark all over it. Here is some of the entertainment. Grammy-nominated hip-hop legend Fat Joe will perform a VIP-only set on Friday, March the 10th.
At what?
At the Big 12 men's and women's basketball tournament.
Okay.
This guy named Shaquille O'Neal, DJ Diesel, will perform a 1-hour DJ set at the Mosaic in the Power and Light District, which is a wonderful place, following the Saturday games, March the 11th at 10 p.m.
All right. Emery's going. Look at his face.
Are you spinning records with Shaq? DJ Diesel. Mm-hmm. Jordan Sparks, the Grammy Award-winning nominated performer, will sing the national anthem at the championship game before the men's game, and Lanny Gardner performs before the women's championship.
All right, here's a little trivia question for you. Who's Jordan Sparks' dad?
Yeah, I know that.
He's former Cowboy and a former Giant.
Everson Walls.
No, his last name was also Sparks.
Oh, yeah. Felipe.
Yeah.
Felipe Sparks. Okay, yeah. I remember her. Was that one of those America's Got Talent?
American Idol.
American Idol? Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of other things going on. Emery's going to be there because Emery's hip and close to Shaq or DJ Diesel. So there's a lot of that that's going to be going on throughout the week in Kansas City, and especially during some of the special events going on as well. And Kansas City does an incredible job. I always see the flare-up of how come they get to host it. Others have tried. No one has ever done it the way Kansas City does it. It's a great basketball state. And, yes, on occasion you would think that maybe they move around. But when Arkansas was here in the conference, the old Southwest Conference, they would flood the gates wherever it was played, whether Reunion Arena or elsewhere. But Kansas City does a great job. Should it be moved? It doesn't bother.
Here's the thing, though. Like, if you move it to Dallas, you move it to Houston, you move it to, San Antonio might be a little bit more accessible to this, but you cannot have the atmosphere that you have around the actual arena that you do with Power and Light and the easy way it is to get around Kansas City for that tournament. Compared to if you have it in Dallas at the American Airlines Center, there's nothing around the American Airlines Center. You can't, it's a fantastic venue, and Dallas would do its best job hosting it, but as far as what is a 5 or 6 day event of a basketball tournament that's centered around in downtown where this arena is and all this cool stuff that's around it within walking distance to 20 hotels that people will stay in and the teams will stay in. I just don't think you can recreate that experience at any other Big 12 city as it stands right now.
Yeah, I don't know about every city, but, Dallas with Victory Park there, they've tried to make that like a whole scene down there, and it hasn't really caught on that way. And, yeah, Dallas is a weird downtown. It's not one where you're just walking around all day and shopping and eating, doing all that stuff like you regularly would in, New York or places like that. I think Kansas City makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. I don't know how many other places would be as accommodating. So I have no issue with that. I just wish I could have enjoyed it the one time that I went. I never really got to explore Kansas City the way that I wanted to, but I've always heard, rave reviews about the setup and all of that. But I think to the Your Mark part of it, he's got the fashion partnership with Bathing Ape. We saw that with the with the referee uniforms at the Big 12 championship game. They had those special shirts they wore, and he's going to have that crossover again, in addition to, obviously calling in some of his celebrity contacts. And I'd say, hey, why not? I mean, make it an event, right? That's kind of what he said previously. Make it fun and entertaining beyond just the games. Let the games be the feature and the highlight, the main film. But, yeah, spice it up a little bit, spruce it up, and get people like Emory excited to go see DJ Diesel on top of, getting to see the best basketball league in the country as well. So I like that there's some elements of that, not taking away from, but just adding to the actual, product and display.
I agree. Terry Smith, I love Waco's Golden Dome. I had a part of it. I'm not sure if Terry may have played there or something. I asked that question. By the way, Terry said tickets for the Final Four at NRG in Houston right now are out of this universe for $1,000 for nosebleed section. Ouch, but that's the way it goes. The pavilion, by the way, is just on the other side of 35 from McLean Stadium, catty corner, right behind the Robinson Center, which has always been, or the tower, which has been the main, administration building, other than Pat Neff Hall, which is a traditional place forever on campus. They're building a brand new welcome center right there on the opposite side. And so that it is gorgeous. It's going up all of a sudden, man. It's going up quickly. It is absolutely going up very, very quickly. Bobby B. Love Drew. Great question, Craig, about the last regular season game at the Farrell, which I did not know about. And also, Hayden Maxwell, I contest David Smoak. Dickey's Arena is right by Camp Bowie, which has a ton of, at Fort Worth, we went to the NCAA tournament last year, the first and second round, where Baylor lost to North Carolina. Kansas was there. That's a really nice place. Mm-hmm. They did a great job. Absolutely, Hayden. That's a very good point, because I do think that would be an interesting place to host it. But I think Barclays Arena might be a nice little something to at least look at some point, despite the long travel for most everybody.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be, and I have no idea what the plan. I don't know if that would be the ideal for a conference championship, but man, you wouldn't be. I don't think hard if you have various members of these team parties going regardless, and they're like, hell yeah, let's go to Kansas City. I mean, are we really thinking that most of them are like, New York City? Nah, I don't want to go play at Barclays. I think that people would be pretty fired up. Now, geographically, it doesn't make any sense.
You're not going to be able to drive.
Right,
Nobody's going to be able to drive.
So that takes out some element of the folks that would normally attend, and why Kansas City is the pull that it is, because there is the drivable factor. But
Missouri's not there anymore.
Right. I mean, so, if you want to go as big as possible, then, yeah, Barclays would be a way to do it. That would be very interesting. That'd be like, I want to go to that trip. They had Big 12 tournament to Barclays, but, I mean, I don't know what their plans are. They're certainly not shying away from letting it be known they're up for anything, though, so that wouldn't be surprising if that was on the table.
All right, Bobby B., good to know. Smokey wondered how they were going to handle the foot traffic, etc. I know someone made a big deal about that. Believe me, they're going to have a parking garage. There's the traffic and the access and how they get to where they need to go, whether students or anyone else, it will be handled. But like anything else that's popular, or where something that people want to go watch, there's going to be issues with traffic, especially when it comes to I-35. So there's part of that. From Barry Crawford, the Bach in Tulsa, BOK in Tulsa would work too.
Okay, I covered Baylor when they were there, and I did actually have a good time in Tulsa. It was really easy to get everywhere and do that. It's just Tulsa is like, if you wanted, I would say, if you wanted Kansas City but less stuff, like it's the same kind of vibe. They got the same thing, but it's, if I don't want to decide between 50 places, if I want to decide between 11, like that's what Tulsa is. Great arena and all that, but yeah.
Some of you are asking about Caleb Grill, Iowa State. We brought that up at the start of, I think, even maybe either this hour or the one before that. He's no longer a part of the Iowa State men's basketball team. And so some of you are bringing that up. We did mention it, but, yeah, we can mention it again because they play Baylor, too, coming up on Saturday afternoon or morning, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, right? I had the idea in my head about asking Skydrift if he saw the news, but that's not appropriate for him to be commenting on it, in my opinion. So that wasn't a worthwhile question to ask him. But in terms of us, I mean, yeah, we talked about, I don't think we emphasized how big of a deal that is, but I think, we'll see in the coming days, what the talk is coming out of Iowa State, because he was a big part of what they did in a lightning rod. So that is a very interesting move. I mean, you don't see that very often where guys, especially March 1st, you're getting booted off the team. I mean, it's, and not just some dude on the end of the bench, all due respect, but you know what I'm saying there. It's not just some guy that's, an afterthought. Very much a guy that's on the radar.
18 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, very much
Baylor, I'm sorry.
A player. And so, yeah, and I know, that he's not been the most beloved figure from others who have watched, but yeah, that's a very interesting move that I'm curious to hear more about from the Iowa State side of things and their reporters on what exactly unfolded there. But yeah, that is definitely an interesting story.
10 points a game, 4 rebounds, an assist and a half, 1 steal per game. Turned it over 1.5 times per game. I'm going to go to Evan Miyakawa because Craig brought this up.
He just called him. Yeah, he mentioned he's
Caleb Grill no longer is a huge loss. One of the top glue guys in the country, and he has a list of the best glue guys in the country, and Caleb Grill is small print somewhere. I can't see it. He got the list up, but it's a small graphics. Kind of looks like sometimes when we put ours up. But he's like maybe 25th glue guy in the country, according to Evan Miyakawa at Evan Mia on Twitter. All right, when we come back, John Machota, the NFL Combine has begun. Interesting day because of Jalen Carter and all of that story that we had in the opening segment. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Today, Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross, all in studio with us. And this is 365 Sports. Live Crawfish. You have 31 minutes to contact Waco Custom Marketplace about ordering 30-pound bags of live crawfish. The price goes up and down. Last time I saw it was like $4.50 a pound. It could go down a little bit. It could go up a little bit, but pretty much is going to be in that $4 to $4.50, maybe even get down to $3.50 a pound. You call, order, and it's on the website, WacoCustomMarketplace.com. It's on Facebook as well. Pre-orders available, 30-pound bags of live crawfish. They're available. They've been available now for a couple of weeks. You can order by 6 o'clock tonight, 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, and if you'd get that in, pick up your crawfish as early as 4 o'clock on Fridays or anytime during the day. They're open on Saturday. Pick up after 4 on Friday or on Saturday, but you must place those live crawfish bags order by 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, which, by the way, the early season crawfish is delicious, and it's available till 6 o'clock tonight. Also, bone-in pork butt and boneless pork butt, $1.55 and $1.90 a pound. Smoked tenderloin, a pork tenderloin, $4.50 a pound. 10% off on all fresh shrimp. And tri-tip at $3.99 a pound. That's what they have, the specials this week through Saturday. And again, the live crawfish, you have 29 minutes to order those 30-pound sacks at Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John Machota, theathletic.com, covers the NFL, covers the Cowboys, Indianapolis, the NFL Combine. And my goodness, John, I know you're there to kind of look around, listen, get to know some of the prospects, see what the Cowboys are doing or saying. But the Jalen Carter story, how much of that was a big bang earlier today when all that story came down?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, especially talking to some of the writers I know that cover the Chicago Bears. You know, that's a guy that they're looking at. If they stay at 1, that's somebody they'd be interested in. So obviously that shakes up the draft when all of a sudden a story like that comes out. But it just seems like, obviously not to that magnitude, but it seems like almost every year I'm out here, there's some type of story with some type of top prospect that seems to leak this week at some point. So that part of it wasn't that big of a surprise, but certainly anything that involves that type of activity and the fact that it's the guy that could possibly go 1 overall. Yeah. It is a big thing down here, but it also, just to be completely transparent, like I feel like every year, the more I come out here, just like my 10th year, it just becomes more and more and more Cowboy stuff for me, to the point where it's like, even in the morning when that stuff breaks, like I'll see it on my phone, I'll read into it a little bit, and then it's like on to the next thing. Like, okay, so where's this agent going to be, or when are we going to talk to this person, or where should I kind of set up shop at to try and kind of like run into somebody, ask some Cowboy stuff. So you know how it is. Cowboys just always keep you busy.
Yeah, absolutely. John, so the Cowboys have some decisions to make before they get to the draft, and other teams have. Similarly, like the Bucs released Leonard Fournette, the Cowboys have decisions to make on Ezekiel Elliott. Do you think we'll find any of that out in the next couple of weeks, or do you think that they will let the Zeke decisions kind of linger for a little bit longer based on who he is?
Yeah, knowing the Cowboys, they probably will let it linger. But this is, especially like tonight and then tomorrow, I think that's when you get a lot of more of the Cowboys talking agents. And so I think that maybe that'll kind of maybe speed up that process a little bit. I'll tell you what. I mean, we talked to Mike McCarthy on the podium today for about 15, 20 minutes, and then a group of us local beat writers got lunch with him and talked to him for another 20 minutes on the record, and then probably another 30, 40 minutes off the record, which is great. So when we're doing that, you're touching on a lot of different topics, and so because of that, I don't know. It's all over the map.
Well, one of those topics was the decision involving Kellen Moore, and that Mike McCarthy will now be the play caller. What were your big takeaways from him, explaining the franchise's side of things and the direction they want to go?
I'll tell you my biggest takeaway walking away from that today is I came here thinking that maybe something happens with them making a move to get a veteran wide receiver, some type of offensive playmaker, like making a splash. I mean, yes, the Cowboys have not been as aggressive as other teams recently, but in the history of the Cowboys, if Jerry's going to be aggressive, it's generally he will be at that position. I mean, he's shown that he will make a move for a wide receiver. But then we go and we're around Mike McCarthy today, and it's just all he's talking about is, shoring up the run game and being more effective running the football, and how he, as offensive play caller, he understands how, Kellen wanted to, be the number one offense and put up a bunch of points and do things like that. Well, he's not as concerned with that. He wants to run the ball, and he wants to take care of the defense because he knows the defense is the strength of the team. And so when I hear things like that, there's a part of me where I'm sitting there going, all right, well, if this is the case, why would you invest and make a big move for a wide receiver? Like the names that are out there, like a Stephon Diggs or a Mike Evans or a DeAndre Hopkins. If you're going to focus on running the ball even more, I mean, that takes me away from even things that they would go after a big name wide receiver like that. And it leans at 26, they would be interested more so than I thought in Bijan Robinson if he's still there, the running back out of Texas.
Yeah, John, look, empirically, the Cowboys are way better when they run or Dak is way better when they run the ball a lot, and they can kind of control the game either way that they want to, and it's not completely on him to win it. So that makes a lot of sense, but do they feel confident enough in Tony Pollard that they can really not go and sign at least a veteran running back to help out, even if they draft one?
So McCarthy is very high on Malik Davis and Rico Dowdle, and so he thinks he can get more out of them. But if they were to move on from Zeke, now obviously if Zeke's to come back, he's going to have to take a significant pay cut. But let's say he doesn't want to. Let's say they move on from him. I don't see how they would just go with Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, and Malik Davis. I think they would make a significant investment at running back. And when I say significant, I don't necessarily mean like the first round pick, but maybe in the second round to add another back to the mix. And let's be honest, Mike McCarthy's never going to say, oh, this will also be way better for Dak because we don't need him thrown as much as he did last year because we don't trust him as a quarterback. He's never going to say anything like that. But to your point, I mean, that's when Dak has been most efficient, is when the offensive line is protected. They've had a good run game. And kind of the thing I took away from McCarthy, too, is that he talked about how he's like, to win a Super Bowl, you need a quarterback that can throw 45 times a game and win games like that. Now, he doesn't want his quarterback throwing 45 times a game every game, but obviously there's going to be certain games where that's the way you need to win. You need to throw it a ton. But he doesn't want Dak to have to win games like that every single week. And I think more under Kellen Moore in these previous 3 years, Kellen would have been fine with Dak throwing 40 times per game.
John Machota with us. TheAthletic.com covers the Cowboys in the NFL. John, the Jalen Carter story that I went to at the beginning because it was such a big deal, do you feel like it was weird that all came out today right before he was supposed to meet with the media? Or is that somebody that got in front of them and said, hey, this is coming out, or is this timing, was it a little bit weird?
Oh, no, the timing's very weird. There's no question about that. Like I said, it feels like there's always something that comes out during this week. And I don't know if that's because someone leaked it or just because, hey, this is a time when people are doing a lot of digging on these players because, let's be honest, they want to make sure if they're going to invest, especially a number one overall pick in a guy, they're going to do all their due diligence and find out everything that you possibly can about him. And so maybe that factors in a little bit. But, yeah, it's very peculiar that, there's no question that out of 365 days out of the year, for this story to come out right now, it's probably one of the 2 or 3 worst days for this to come out when you're right in the middle of combine week.
John, do you think the Cowboys, given if the right guy falls to them in the first 2 rounds, so there might be 5 tight ends that go, you think they would take one of those guys, a Meyer, a Kincaid, Darnell Washington?
I don't. And the only reason why is because I know they really like what they have Ferguson and Hendershot, and because tight end is arguably the deepest position in this class, and so I think they'd rather add a corner or address a different position as opposed to taking a tight end there, just because they probably feel like if they want to add another tight end, if Schultz, they're unable to re-sign him, which is probably unlikely that they do. I think they'd rather do that in the 2nd or 3rd round and probably still get a guy that they think is pretty close to whoever they would have taken at 26. So I don't think it would be a bad idea, but I don't see them doing that.
John, what do you think? I know you're a Florida State guy. You and Paul discuss it off the air. You have your own show before you join us for the segment on Wednesdays about the Seminoles rattling that cage of the ACC.
As in, like, how good they could possibly be this year? Or did I miss some news?
Oh, no, yeah. Last Friday they had a board of trustees, and Matt Baker discussed it. We don't have a lot of time to get to it, but they were throwing out, we can't sustain this by giving up $30 million a year to those who we're trying to beat. Basically, that was what was said. Oh, yeah.
Let's go. All right, well.
There was some unequal revenue sharing.
Go ahead, Craig.
Okay, yeah, no. I'm telling you, when I get here, I'm not joking. Like, I am so, like, tuned out to the rest of the world that, like, you saying it to me, I was like, wow, okay, all right. Like, I like hearing this. No, I've seen those things people talk about how they could merge, like, the ACC and the Pac-12, and I'm just like, that's not the answer. Like, I don't know. I think we're going to get to a time where there's not even any conferences, and the playoffs going to continue to expand. But, yeah, if you're Florida State or you're Clemson, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to try and get out of the ACC and try and get into the SEC or the Big Ten. It just seems like that's where all the money's at. Now, if those conferences will have you, that's another story. But that is interesting. I'm glad you just shared that with me.
Well, and they suggested
I'll send you some data,
unequal
John.
revenue sharing, as Craig was trying to bring up.
Yeah, he was like an event or something and brought up that they're basically going to need unequal revenue sharing to feel like they're getting their rightful piece of the pie. And it would be one thing if that was just, one person saying that, but then Clemson's AD basically turned right around and said the exact same thing about they probably need a bigger piece of the pie moving forward based on their brand. So, yeah, some very interesting times. They obviously have that long TV contract, which makes matters a little more difficult, but certainly rattling the cages a little bit, and interesting to hear them bark publicly.
Yeah, and that's interesting how it's got to be 2 teams like that, too, because it was just like Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 together, just like USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big 10 together. And if you told me on the ACC that 2 teams are going to link up and have a chance to leave and go to a bigger conference, it would definitely be Clemson and Florida State.
John, thank you very much. Enjoy. Indianapolis, great place. One of my favorite trips in all the 40-plus years or so was that week or 2.5 weeks in Indianapolis with Baylor making their run into a national championship win against Gonzaga.
It must be nice to just be so locked in elsewhere that you just, but we're focused on college football, so we're inevitably going to see that. But, yeah, he must be really busy down there. I think, it's like when you go to Super Bowl or Big 12 Media Days even, and in one site you're just there for a couple days or a few days. You really do. It's like the rest of the outside world ceases to exist.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of like you remember that story about Jared Leto was in like a dark, like one of those retreats, like a silence,
like Aaron Rodgers
retreat, and it was right when the pandemic started, and he like came out and was like calling people and like, hey, are we still doing this on Friday? They're like, no, there's a he didn't know anything about it because he was there for like 3 weeks.
The pandemic?
He had no idea.
If you're going to tell me somebody would have made that move, Jared Leto seems like a person that could have that happen to them. Yes, absolutely.
I have to admit this, and we come back with the top 5. I ordered the staff 2 pizzas earlier this afternoon, and I sent them to where I live. I have to admit that on the air because it's going to come back to haunt me at some other point. So I had to go and reorder at least one real quickly to get here, which it did. That is what happens sometimes when you don't pay attention. 2 beautiful pizzas sent to my condo, probably right now being gobbled up by a raccoon or a bunch of damn ants. This is 365 Sports.
I hate my job,
but I don't mind getting up in the morning.
I dread each day,
but I can't wait to get out of bed.
You ask me why.
And what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue.
Next in line.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 NFL Combine storylines. Since we're there, we just talked to John Machota, who is there. Number 5. How does Derek Carr affect the quarterback market? He's going to talk to the Jets. He's going to talk to the Saints. And I want to say someone else I'm leaving out. Maybe
hopefully Washington.
The Panthers. He's going to talk to several teams, and he's going to take his time. But if you're the Jets and Washington are picking at 13 and 16. The Panthers are picking at 9. The Saints pick at 29. To me, I think the more likely destination for him is the Saints. But if you're the Jets and you sign him, does that mean you're not going to draft a quarterback or try to move up to get one at 13? Because by signing him, you're saying that we're at least in the next 4 or 5 years, Zach Wilson is not our guy. So he won't get to the second deal, and he'll probably get dealt right away by the Jets. So if he goes to the Jets, then that's a big thing, and he could set the dominoes all around. Derek Carr also probably affects the teams that are involved in Aaron Rodgers a lot, because the Jets could be one of those teams. I do think the Titans should really consider Derek Carr. Honestly, I don't know how much better he is than Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's had trouble staying healthy throughout seasons. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting that a guy who is probably better than the record indicates, but not an earth shaker at quarterback, is going to affect this entire market.
Does it affect anybody at the top of the draft and what they're looking for?
Like the very top, he's not going to sign with the Texans. He's not going to sign with the Colts. he's not. But the Panthers at 9, I mean, that could be a team that drafts Anthony Richardson or Will Levis or somebody like that. I mean, maybe Levis might be gone before then too. But, yeah, I think it does affect, like, do you go up and move, or do you feel like maybe you don't have the capital to go move and you sign Derek Carr because you feel good about the rest of your roster?
Yeah, I feel better about him than some of these other signings that have taken place with guys who have seemingly worn out their welcome, like Carson Wentz in Washington. I'd much rather have Derek Carr any day over Carson Wentz, and there's probably other examples along those same lines. But, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see where he lands because he's certainly not done, and I don't think he's tapped out by any means or shown the absolute best that he can show. He's only 31 years old. I mean, I know that's technically starting to get up there age-wise, but, I mean, as we see now, and look, not everybody's going to be Tom Brady playing into his 40s or anything. That's not going to become the new norm, but I think 31, you still have plenty of gas in the tank at QB. So now hugely motivated because of, a feeling of, the fact the franchise didn't believe in him or disrespected him in some way by moving on. And I think he'll be highly motivated to go and perform well for whoever it is. But, yeah, certainly a lot of teams that could use a guy who's got some proven stats in Derek Carr.
Number 4, Jalen Carter. And, to take out the actual, what terribly happened here, does this affect him? I mean, he's not going to have a Lyle Collins-like drop where he doesn't get drafted at all. And that might have been the most unfortunate one ever, where a couple days before the draft, a girl who had a number in Lyle Collins' number was one of the last 10 people she called in her phone was murdered, and he was somehow indicated in that, even though he had nothing to do with it. So he dropped completely out of the draft, and the Cowboys lucked into a first-round talent for the better part of a decade because he went and signed there after the draft, and they didn't let him go anywhere else. It just
that thing with Lyle Collins, you're talking about the Cowboys. It was like free agency.
Laramie Tunsil too with the old gas mask smoking weed picture, whatever came out.
As the draft is going on,
and then he falls somewhat. Turned
out to be a hell of a player.
I don't know. I mean, it's the guy they're talking about being the number 1 overall pick, though. They weren't talking about that with those guys. I mean, number 1.
Collins was like a top 15 pick.
Yeah,
how many of the 32 teams will take him off their board?
None.
Oh,
I don't think a single one. It's the NFL we're talking about. What did he
board,
do?
But
I didn't say 29 of them. I just said how many. I bet there's probably a handful.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a single one that would not draft
Until all of a sudden
Jalen
he's
Carter.
still there, and they're time for them to pick.
I don't think there's a single one that wouldn't draft him. The only reason they wouldn't draft him is because they don't need him specifically at that position at that time in the first round. They just have a greater need. But, I mean, we're talking about the same league that, all 32 teams have at some point or time or currently employ a guy who's been involved in something and in some cases flaunt it. I mean, we're talking the Cowboys, it's like Kevontae Turpin's great comeback story. It's like, do we want to talk about what the comeback was from? That bothered me to no end during the year.
No, he didn't have a disease.
Right, no. It wasn't he beat cancer. It was no, he got in a bunch of trouble, got booted off of TCU, and then, bounced around in the alt leagues, and now he's with the Cowboys returning kicks, and it's that was not some great comeback story. I'm sorry. But, there's guys who have found trouble, who have found themselves in the league with no problems whatsoever, and I think Jalen Carter is undoubtedly one of those guys. And if he falls, it'll be like a pick or two, unless there is some evidence that shows there's just hugely – I mean, there's already reckless behavior, obviously, because of just the situation itself, but I don't know. I feel like there would have to be some huge smoking guns coming out of the rest of the reporting involving him directly that would – just force you to have to remove him.
Todd McShay from ESPN, and again, people defend, he had mentioned that there were some character issues. Bruce Feldman of theathletic.com ran a huge story about the kind of person he's been. That doesn't mean you still can't have character issues.
Sure.
But he has number 4. Okay.
Well, he has judgment issues. We know that.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Sometimes it doesn't completely reflect on character. It's just he has judgment issues. Number 3, what teams might want a quarterback that we aren't thinking about? Especially you look in the top 10, there's a couple. The Lions are interesting to me because Jared Goff is their quarterback. He got him to the playoffs. He's been to the Pro Bowl 3 times. He's been to a Super Bowl. So he probably gets a worse rap than he deserves because he and Sean McVay just didn't see eye to eye. He gets traded and they go and win the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. But Does Detroit say, you know what, we're sitting here at 5?
Matthew Stafford, Von Miller, among others, too.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but do they say, look, we like Jared Goff, but, you know,
I thought he was really good. Dude.
Yeah,
I'm not saying elite, but I thought he was.
Would that also be a spot where, or they're at 6, I think, but would that also be a spot where, you know, Anthony Richardson makes sense because you could develop him behind Jared
If the
Goff.
Packers are going to draft quarterbacks and they have Aaron Rodgers and or Brett Favre, then why wouldn't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And no, I mean, they should be copying the only team that regularly wins.
I'm not comparing him to those guys.
Well, yeah, but they should be trying to maybe copy the only team that regularly wins their division. Yeah. So,
yeah, I want to backtrack on the Jalen Carter thing now I think about it. If he does, in fact, have charges that are found to where
that
he's
felony charges?
Yeah, like if that turns into that, he's got charges for the reckless part of this, but if that were to turn into something, then yes, you might see some because he might have to go to jail. You know, like, I mean, that's part of the unknown. But, yeah, that would be a scenario, an asterisk of, like, yeah, teams would probably not go that direction. But
if in fact there's any previous type behavior that we don't know about,
if it all adds up, then sure. But just on the surface of like this incident, as sad as it is, and I'm sure as remorseful as people involved are, I just don't think we know enough right now to say like, yeah, they're going to remove him and not sniff the potential number 1 overall pick in the entire draft.
There will be a handful, I think, and we won't maybe know that, but might just say we're not interested, even if he's the best player on the draft board. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this one. I think it's pretty clear. I don't know who those teams could be. That's what you're asking, and it's very interesting that there is sort of that story behind the story that is probably not getting a ton of attention because the focus is so much on the top couple of guys or on Aaron Rodgers or on those things. But yeah, there's plenty of other teams that could very well make a move.
Yeah. Number 2. What other roster moves are on the way? Are we going to find out soon what Aaron Rodgers' decision is? Are the Ravens going to get Lamar Jackson done? Look, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans. I don't think Stephon Diggs is really out in the water. I think that the Diggs brothers have made it seem that way. But does a big move like that get made for before the free agency period? And for Aaron Rodgers, it pretty much almost has to because of the gigantic amount of his guarantees, $60 million. And for the Ravens, you'd want it to for Lamar Jackson. But there's guys who are getting released. Does Zeke Elliott happen before all of this? Leonard Fournette just got released by the Bucs, which he said was at his request, and they're moving on. The Bucs are in an interesting transitional period. So what else do they do? Do they do something with Chris Godwin as well? They've got some valuable pieces that now that Tom Brady's not there and they don't really know what their future at quarterback is, and they're picking 19th because of that, what do they do? How do they move forward?
That team just looks so old by the end, didn't it? The Bucs, they just look so old by the end of that run. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to figure out for everybody out there, and you laid out a bunch of the questions there, but it's a fascinating time period. I mean, how teams regroup, restructure, reload, rebuild, revamp, remix, whatever you want to phrase it as. New coaches in the league as well. I'm very keen on this Aaron Rodgers thing because it seems like something has to give at this point in time, and maybe that's just him remaining where he has been. I don't really buy you buying into Lamar Jackson and
leaving?
No. I'm not at all in any way, shape, or form.
Franchise
him. No, but I'm curious to see what else might be out there as well.
If you have a quarterback, even if it's not Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or whoever, and some move on, like Detroit let Stafford go to or traded him, there aren't enough of them anyway. So if you have one, and Lamar Jackson's winning record, his winning percentage after a certain amount of games is among the top 4 best all time, with names like Mahomes, Brady, and Staubach.
Yeah.
Now, does he have some things that aren't perfect? Sure. But I want a guy that wins.
I think part of this is, one, he's maximizing his overall value. The franchise tag allows him to do that. 2, the other thing he needs to do if he wants to win, especially in the short window that people have, especially as a running quarterback in the league, they need to get him some weapons, and I think he's going to use this to gain that leverage and be like, yes, please go get me DeAndre Hopkins or Mike Evans or some of those guys I talked about before, because they don't have that. They have 2 really good tight ends. They don't have healthy running backs ever, which is unfortunate for them. And then they don't have any real, stud wide receivers there either. And number 1, what do the Bears do? I think it'd be all these people saying they should trade Justin Fields or draft a quarterback. Look, they just had the best season by a quarterback that they've had in forever. And if they build that the right way around Justin Fields and the offense, I think, kind of an Eagles, Jalen Hurts type situation, that kind of offense that they can be very successful, surround them with weapons, load up on picks. But who is that you're going to load up on picks from? Is it the Texans 2-12? In the first round, they go up before you and draft the quarterback that they want? Is it the Colts? Is it somebody else like the Panthers, who may have to mortgage the farm to make sure that they get Bryce Young or whoever the quarterback that they like the most is, because they are in dire straits? So the Bears, for the first time in a long time, hold a lot of cards. And
thanks to Lovie Smith and the Texans.
Yeah, exactly. So very curious to see what they do here.
Yeah, me too. That's going to be a very interesting top of the draft now with just the decision now with Jalen Carter and whatever unfolds legally from that side of things, and just the quarterbacks and the debate over those guys. And, didn't even the talk about how high could Bijan go, and it's going to be an interesting draft. I don't think there's not that Trevor Lawrence, right? There's not that go-to number one overall guy. Carter was that, but now there's at least a little bit of a ripple there. Maybe he still is. But, I think it's going to be a fun process to get to April and see how this all unfolds.
Real quickly, we are out of time, but Hayden Maxwell, the super chat, asking Craig, do you think if the big schools of the ACC join the Big 12, which I don't see happening, but asking you, could boost the TV revenue enough to come close to what the SEC and Big Ten have?
I think if you took the current Big 12 and you added like Florida State and Clemson and Miami, I think that there's no doubt in my mind that the figures would go up. But to the extent of the SEC, ACC, I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like it'd be
one. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it's not. I'll say number one. I don't think it's going to happen. No.
Yeah, and I will say this. I think when it comes to even thinking about that, it's a pointless thought exercise to even put them with those teams,
right?
Because the reason they're not getting that money is because they are playing teams like Wake Forest and Duke and all that, and they would be coming to play teams that are a similar size.
Yeah.
And so I think that's not some, but yeah.
Be like moving out of a house and then moving to a house is the exact same. It's just painted a different color, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
in many ways, yeah.
And
but it would spice up the conference, but that's a good.
Yeah, I appreciate the question in the super chat, definitely though. But yeah, it's an interesting fantasy exercise to think about that. But I don't think that that's anywhere near realistic. And I gotta leave us with this: Caleb Grill has now talked.
I gave it to Garrett.
Okay,
go ahead, Garrett.
Caleb
put that
Grill
up.
has released a statement, and it's lengthy. It's like 8 screenshots worth of a statement, basically getting through all of it. He's very proud to have been at Iowa State. You can say that. But all the way to the very end, which is like 8 pages into this thing, or 8 notes into this thing, he said, "Unfortunately, I said something that I regret, which has cost me the opportunity to finish out my dream at Iowa State. I hope that all the players and Iowa State fans can find it in their hearts to forgive me." And he talks about how he wants to be remembered. He also brought up that he's struggled with mental illness. He mentioned that's even gone so far as to affect like the haircut, and he gets pretty deep into this. You can tell it's an emotional thing, but in the end, apparently it was something that he said that cost him his spot on the roster, and I'm sure there will be more unveiled over time.
Heck of a player. They'll miss him. Iowa State, sometimes when you lose somebody, even if he's good, you kind of like what happens when you cut your finger. Your body tries to heal you. By the way, Alabama edge rusher Will Anderson saying who's the toughest player he faced in college, and he said it was Texas running back Bijan Robinson. So I wanted to throw that out there. Paxton, I know you put that up there. And finally, Boise State's win last night against San Diego State, their first top 20 win in men's basketball at home since Washington in 1998. So happy for Jeremiah Dickey, Boise State, and that athletic program. Emery Winter, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak tonight, Sports Tonight at 10:30. We'll have that on the CW channel. I'm David Smoak, our great sponsors. We start another month. And here we go. Good night on 365 Sports.